And we're live. Hello and welcome to a special episode with some amazing HEX broadcasters here. We've got the crew that everybody's shown up to see. There's like 190 people watching off the bat, a huge crowd here, thousands on the replay. We have Gary, who does a lot of in-person community building and longtime HEX broadcaster. We got Axis Live, who people follow for chart and much more, all kinds of content. Silver the Antidote is probably the #1 on-chain analyst. Captain RG3, movie star, founder of Discourse Syndicate, etc. And Crypto Coffee, the #1 HEX YouTuber. Welcome.
Oh, thanks, guys. Yeah, good to be here. Good to get all your familiar faces back again. Bunch of OGs.
First time we've had a big panel like this, definitely for me. Most of the time, I only do what, 2 people, 3 people. So yeah. It's great like to have everyone here. Thanks for your. Yeah, exactly. So Matty, you want to do a little brief on the green room part?
Yeah, well, Silver, you were just explaining how important it is for you to speak your truth about what you see on chain, whether it's a positive or a negative thing for people's bags. I think that's very admirable. One of the reasons that we're in cryptocurrency is for the transparency. That's one way that it's different than the legacy financial system that's so opaque. And so I find a lot of value in what Silver does. Not just creating hype, but bringing us the facts of what you're seeing on chain and really even analyzing the psychology of people's behavior as you see it on chain. And so I know that you've made content for a long time in the past, and now you're not as public with the content that you make. And so I'm excited to hear what you've been observing on chain and hear, I guess, what the rest of the panel thinks about it.
Yeah, so I think the main part of why we've tried to bring this show together is for me to speak to the audience out there and give some views and opinions of how I see the landscape developing now that hopefully we're fully coming out of this bottom of the market, and obviously we're seeing Ether and Bitcoin completely ripping at the moment. It's fantastic. But yeah, there's a lot of controversy around my name, and there has been other chain and analyst guys out there before. Won't need to mention names, but they've pretty much come out public. They've actually gone off and siphoned community members elsewhere, spoken badly about some of the other people that also challenged them. And for a long time, I was in 2016, 2017, I saw a lot of the ICO run. And that's pretty much where I learned a lot of my chain data and how to read things, because there was a lot of mishaps that were taking place. There was a lot of misguidance taking place by the influencers at the time. And I just felt that there's people sometimes that do have more of a moral compass, where they want to come out and they want to help defend, or at least try to show people what is taking place. And one of the great things that Richard told me was, if you don't understand something, look at it every day until you understand it. It's the only way you could start to, get more into complex things, and suddenly things just start to click. So I've tried to help a few people understand this. I've tried to show the flow of how things move, because sometimes it can be a very tedious thing, but yet it is a backbone to every community, because it's this true truth of what the coin, all the players that are involved. And I believe early on in the HEX days, one of the things that I produced was like an OA audit, where we validated that this entity has not sold any coins ever. So that put a lot of faith into the market, and that put a lot of faith into people knowing who I am back then. And like Matty's saying, I wasn't so public anymore, purely because when you start to talk out publicly about accounts and things being bearish or bullish. People love everything when it's bullish and you're showing all the good news. But when you're showing the negatives of certain things, and this was one of the reflections that I had back in 2017, communities turn against you because ultimately you are speaking bad against their bags. And for me, it's not a case of good or bad. It's a case of truth and people having understanding, because I believe it's one of my support factors to, at least if people are educated and understand what is taking place on the chain, they're informed. If people are being misinformed by social media and certain things like that, I feel it's just at least give them both sides of the story so they can decide. And if they don't understand it, hopefully there's people out there who can. So unfortunately, a lot of backlash does come. And that is why I'm one of those that I don't really need to do it, but I now, I do put things through Twitter at times, but I don't like things to be taken out of miscontext. So that's why my Twitter account is actually blocked, because I just put out what I want to do, which is the truth of how I see it. And those that can't handle it, well, sorry, there's no need for you to be there and bring negative energies down. So that's the intro of that part, guys. If you want to say anything else.
Shout out to Ryan Lopez. Thanks for the $20
Yeah.
super chat. He says, all-star lineup for tonight. Big Brains United. #HEX.
Yeah. It's good to be here. It is a little late where I'm at. So, I mean, that was quite a long intro, but if there's any particular points you want to make, let's just get right to the points. I mean, it sounds like there's something that you've got. I know you're a chain analysis guru. For people that don't know Silver, he's got a group. He's done chain analysis for a long time. But yeah, if there's something in particular, let's just get right into it.
All right. So what I'm seeing is there's quite a lot of like a stagnation point in terms of activity used.
Up froze.
Oh no. No.
The powers.
We almost learned the truth. So close.
I guess we'll never know.
Yeah, this is, I think that the response, I can kind of read it on everybody's face. The response after Silver's commentary, once he comes back on, there he is. Maybe. I think that there's going to be, I don't want anybody to feel cornered. I definitely have my opinions about what I think is about to come out, but I don't want anybody to feel cornered and this to turn into a weird fight.
Hey, Silver, it looks like you're back.
Yeah, sorry, connection issue. Yeah, sorry. Am I causing discomfort or something?
No.
No, let the dogs.
You're froze. You're back.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So yeah, I would like to see a lot more unity and understanding about what has actually shaped the market to move the way it has. And there has been a significant account that has, which people know as Alex, who has acquired, a substantial amount of HEX on eChain, which when I research that particular account, I do have quite big concerns about who that is. And he will most likely be watching. And again, whatever he's connected to, by me making any public statement, you can guess what happens to me, right? That puts a target straight on me. But in the order of protection people, or at least being informed, that's why I would like the panel to help me with how far I should do things publicly or not. That's kind of why I need the guidance from you guys. I have posted that particular account is connected to scams. Okay, by their own nature and what they have done.
What scams are in particular? I didn't see the post.
Yeah, so
give us some detail.
It's connected. Yeah, it's connected to phishing attacks on other chains where ethers are being stolen. And that's been reported by Zach XBT on Twitter. And I just happened to find one of the accounts that he's already labeled as "this is stolen funds." And that was some trace funds of Ether was sent out from the main Alex wallet into a very into a central point of where funds move around. And it's a very, very bizarre action of what that particular account would do. And that's basically why I've given it like a 99% link on that. So for me, that's unfortunate. And I think a lot of people had a, an interesting feeling during the stream that some of you guys had with him. So anyway, that's just one case. I don't think he's going to be around long. Okay. I don't think he's got long-term vision, and I don't think he has too much understanding about what it is that he's doing. Now, on the flip side, from what I'm hearing, and it's correct, yes, but he's bringing in a lot of money in the process. And I'm balancing. I'm like, yeah, okay, that's true. That's good. A lot of those funds were deployed at like exactly the bottom. So he will be having the best rate of like the last, 2.5 years or whatever it is.
So what was his total accumulation? Was it like 3.7 million, if I remember correct?
What, as in dollar invested?
So all I really know about this guy is from Maddie's stream, and I just watched it for honestly not even the whole stream, just the clips, the good stuff or whatever. And it seemed just like, this dude bought on stream. I'm like, oh, that's great. It's a nice billboard advertisement, watching some whale accumulate. He might be connected to a scam. That's all kinds of people can get into crypto. So if he's just going to cheat out early, well, then let's hope he gets it over with sooner. But if he's only, from what I remember, he had like $3-something million of HEX. And I know that's a lot, but I also don't think that's going to like devastate things, even if he did dump it all.
Yeah, it comes down to a couple of dynamics, right? So it was stated that he invested 3.7. Truth is, it's like just over 2. It's only because the market value moved up. $2 million. It's only because the market value moved up. It is then obviously worth what it's worth. It is a considerable amount, and because I'm watching like how the liquidity pools work, I'm seeing that as it can, in conjunction with what Bank X are up to. It for me, it's like I'm wary of actually being involved on that side until there's some form of what are these guys up to, what are they doing, like, because to stake it, fantastic, stake it, lock it, ladder it out, do this sort of thing, we know it's safe. But in terms of trying to at least inform audience, me seeing how the LP pool works, the reason it's able to jump so high is because literally there's very little ether in it anyway. And Access will talk about that. Some of you other guys will know about that, but we covered that quite a lot, how the LP structure actually works. And even if he wanted to sell, he actually cannot. Like, that's already been extracted out of the system from those who have come on after his purchase and have sold. So that's what the price chop is. So he's effectively trapped as it is. And I don't know whether he was aware in that scenario.
Wasn't that why he bought on stream and tried to pump it and sold right after?
Yeah, exactly. So trying to talk to or manipulate an audience, because he was very not transparent in a lot of things, and I think a lot of people found it a little bit awkward. I think actually, comment if you like. I think you found certain bits awkward, and just generally like didn't feel so genuine about the intention. So I hear, like, I don't want to make it all about him, because it's actually not all about him. It's just, that's just like a precursor warning of what I see could be coming on that side. Not that I want to upset people, because again, it's a buying opportunity. If he starts to unload, that's great. Because it's like, okay, now you're out of the system.
For sure. I have some comments when it goes to the topic, because part of the commentary, again, people appreciate chain analysis. The ones that appreciate it, they scrutinize over it. The people that appreciate it, They want a service for it. We really appreciate when there's information available, especially when it's requested, right? So there's a certain personality type that has to understand how electricity flows through electrons and wires to get to the motor so that it turns and makes their room cold. Like there's a personality type that really appreciates that information being available. But to me, at least, HEX on Ethereum is not different than HEX on Pulse Chain. There's different participant base since the fork. There's different narrative and people that popularized that one chain because of lower transaction costs and different security model as a fork of Ethereum. There's a whole narrative about why there's price divergence and participation, right? Some people are participating on only one chain and only buying or selling, and others are not, right? So to me, at least, as far as my commentary is, Silver has a long history talking about silver, right? His analysis, his STA history, and his community that came over to cryptocurrency is because he liked metals, just like I liked metals. And what's interesting is London can manipulate the price of spot. JP Morgan can dump or buy up the price of a contract. And you can move the perception of the value of a metal, right? But the metal has properties. When you talk about monetary properties, you might say that it's divisible, fungible, that it's transportable, like all these different characteristics of what is good money or sound money. So I think that at least my opinion is that we talk a lot about just the price, just the chart, just who bought, just who sold. And we don't talk about the characteristics of why we're even here. To me, I like the fact that HEX is a smart contract. I didn't say what chain, smart contract. I like the fact that it has a staking narrative that gives HEX on HEX return. Didn't talk about what chain, didn't talk about price, didn't talk about who bought, didn't talk about who sold. I'm talking about the characteristics of the nature of the product itself, the token. And I think that when we see price move positively or negative, sure, there's human emotion because participants buy into a narrative. Price is going up. I want to buy the green candle. I want to get in. Price is going down. I want to sell before it goes down further. Big guy bought a long time ago. He's going to dump on my head. Big guy accumulated 400 million HEX at the bottom and set the floor, but now he's going to dump. Like all these narratives to me are wasted time. These seem like
I agree with you to a certain point. Sorry, Gary. I agree with you to a certain point about storytelling, narrative building, and all that. If we're going back to the Alex thing again, I was interested 2 weeks ago, but I kind of feel like a lot of people on social, well, maybe at least myself, kind of that was like last week's news, and if anyone's still out there, I guess worrying about this Alex guy, like, yeah, we shouldn't be worshiping. It sounds like what Silver's found out is that this guy's probably does not have, the HEX OG or the real ideals or whatever. So he's probably not somebody to be worshipped and like rallying behind, but it's good entertainment, right? And so he came on Maddie's channel, and like it's always good fun to see some whales smack 100K buy order right in front of your face. I mean, yeah, he did dump it right after. Not very cool, it kind of sounds like some mischievous type of business, but I kind of stopped thinking about that like last week, and I'm not trying to, maybe there's more to that I don't know. I just don't want to say, one, it was an interesting thing, but two, like, let's not, give this guy any undue credit or really overanalyze it, because he's probably just going to dump out on our heads as soon as he can. So
I'm here, Coffee. Don't worry. Yeah. You're fine. I'm going to dump the price immediately.
What's going on, Zeller?
And YouTube, BCC.
What's going on, you guys? Damn, all-star lineup right now. What the hell?
Yeah, we're wasting our damn time. So, I mean, look, Silver, I freaking love what you do. I've always loved what you do. And it's important behind the scenes. It's important to watch and see what's going on. I feel duped right now because we just told the whole HEX community that all of us were getting together to come bring them something special. We're talking about some fool that came in here, possibly a scammer, and came and bought some HEX and got himself stuck. We all saw it. We saw what he did. He bought on stream to make some kind of maybe try and get a pump so he can get his money back out. And he failed, and now he's trapped. So it's old news, just like Coffee said. So if we're going to do this right now, we should do this for the community, because the community is watching for something. And I don't think this has anything to do with anything that's going on right now. It's old news. It's water under the bridge. And I'm glad people like you are watching it and bringing stuff to our attention, so we know a little bit more about what happened that week. Right. But I mean, it's just a waste of time here to get the whole community gathered to talk about this crap.
I think I can bring like a lot of perspective, and it's actually, there's Nothing. The Alex thing was a net positive, and here's why. So the HEX price tripled in value, and it created the largest weekly close candle in the history of HEX on Ethereum. That in and of itself is worth its weight, and it showed people what was possible. I don't care if Alex is in for a week or a month, or he sells for a loss. And so, number one, the equity on the Pulse Chain bridge tripled in terms of EHEX price value. That gave people that had EHEX on Pulse Chain more equity to swap into native Pulse Chain assets because he went and did that. Now, if this guy wants to sell, he's welcome to bridge into Pulse Chain and just dump his coins over there. Nothing's stopping him from doing that. So there's opportunity there for liquidity for him if he wants to sell and get out now. Now, if he takes the loss, all right, he sells on the Ethereum side, takes the loss, he's giving another whale a tremendous opportunity to buy his bag up at the same price that he got it at or less. And it gives the community one last chance to buy before this bull run really kicks off. But I don't think this guy's dumb enough to do it because he knows what he's holding.
What bull run, bro? We're not in a bull run right now. We're still in the bear market.
Tell that to Ethereum at 50. So,
but I mean,
the market pump can't be ignored.
It's DeFi. We can't filter the participants. Participants are going to come. They're going to have positive mentality.
There wasn't scammers buying back in 2021 and 2020 into HEX. Are you kidding me? Why do you think we had a minus 99% drop? You can't.
The BankX thing. The BankX thing too. If we were going to get to that eventually, yeah, that sucks to think about as well. But there's so many. For every one public, idiot out there that's got a whole bunch of liquid HEX, there's probably like 100 in private that aren't on streams, that are whales that are just waiting to dump their bags. That they're not going to be here 5555. We could worry about that, but I think there's a lot more money outside the ecosystem that's infinitely much more potential to try to focus on bringing that in. But yeah, I mean, it does piss me off. Like, I don't enjoy thinking about some asshole out there with 750 million accidental HEX. Like, it doesn't really, and who gave it? I mean, it's like, I don't
think it's so accidental. I don't think it's that accidental.
No, I don't either.
Oh, the conspiracy. Yeah. I remember this.
I mean, but like, no matter what though, either it was a retarded move.
Very.
Let me say it again. A retarded move, or two, it was, an OTC deal, basically, right? So, oh no, magically, some stable coins on BNB go missing. Whoa, look at that. Whoa, an hour later, whoa, money goes over here for a sacrifice. How did that happen? I mean, either way, I mean, it put EHEX, and the thing is like people, because we as a community have been working together for a really long time now, since like 2019. YouTubing, putting the good word out there, trying to get people to know about HEX, and the outside of like just the periphery of like our ecosystem when it comes to like HEX and EHEX and all that stuff and PHEX. People only know Ethereum HEX, really, and maybe have heard about Pulse Chain slightly. So when I still catch people shitting on HEX, and they're just shitting on the Ethereum HEX price. They're not
even counting staking. They're not counting that everyone's got double, and they're also not even counting half the chart, because when they go on CoinMarketCap, they just see the chart chopped off at like 2021. So
it's the same brand, it's the same logo with some minor gradient color changes. People are going to say the word HEX, and even if you explain in a tweet, you got to say it's the Ethereum HEX we're talking about. It's the Pulse Chain HEX we're talking about. Like, it's the same brand. So don't harm the brand by talking shit about the one half. I don't get that.
Yeah, I don't think any of us are. It's just more like going back to the whole billboard thing. What Axis was saying is that the silver lining in the whole Alex thing was that he painted a nice green candle. A big old girthy one, and it's kind of the little hopium that everyone needed. And yeah, he's probably a total Jeet, but whatever.
So let me add another one in there. Yeah. So one of he's obviously he's out there known. At the same time, if you go over to the HEX chart as well on Pulse Chain, you're actually going to see a very large candle move on that side. And I think what people assumed was that because the EHEX price is going up and the correlation and all this sort of thing, that's automatically what made the other side go up as well, and all of Pulse Chain. But in reality, there was actually another few players on the other side, one in particular who has so far accumulated roughly about 200 million HEX, right, for cash. And that was bridged in through the Ether chain, Ether, obviously into Pulse chain, and that's just like market bought. And so far, that person has staked a little bit and seems to still be acquiring. And whereas, you know, the promises inside of HEX is that there are many other pods of this whale that are going to be coming in to purchase up. I'm going to tell my friends. So it's just I don't know, because my timeline only shows me who I follow and things like that inside of Twitter. So I don't know really, because unfortunately I've been earmarked badly. So a lot of the people that I think are in Pulse chain we're all blocked through each other, so I can't see what anyone else is really posting about what's going on that side of the chain. And it's funny because I do a lot of the blockchain stuff. I had a lot of the bots set up. All of my systems are set up for Ethereum, and that has not transitioned over yet until I started to manually do it probably about a month ago, and review everything that's going on inside a Pulse chain. So now I'm moving over there because it's took time for me to basically want to spend the time and see what's going on in the undercore, because I think to put this into more of a positive spin now, it's like I thought Pulse chain was always going to be a struggle, right? Of how you exactly extract and move the Ethereum into that area and educate like the next 100,000, 200, 1 million people to actually jump through a bridge, right? It's another barrier. It's hard. And I think, you know, with a lot of the layer developments that are going on, and with a lot of people out there educating, the only thing that's kind of pulled down the system for me is a lot of these, which you can't obviously avoid, a lot of these spin-off coins, shiny objects, all this sort of stuff. And one of the annoying things that I do see, and it does, you know, piss me off, it's just like all these shit things that get created, all the pump and dumpers that come in, and all that money that gets extracted out of the system, when it should just kind of be focusing in what in my belief the core aspect is, the heartbeat of the entire structure. But that's you know, that's each to their own. But over time, like, we do see just a lot of net outflows, and that's why a lot of the prices, even after only a few people come in and inject like significant amount of capital on both sides of the chain, a lot of it just gets bled back out again, and it kind of fizzles down. And what I'm getting at is I don't really see a lot of large whales that are stepping in, because those whales basically, and no lie, they destroy probably like what, 5 sharks each time they come in and just acquire hundreds of millions. So it's great for the system in that aspect.
Right.
Do you think that's because of
sides of the
the
chain.
liquidity? Is that why
Well,
more whales don't come in?
Well,
I think
for
we're
me
just in an
personally-
accumulation zone. We're just in a bear market accumulation zone. I mean, there's going to be a lot of trading back. Like, I can't tell you how many times I watch the whale chart and I see, like, you know, $100,000 of HEX bought, and then it's the same guy, 100,000 of HEX sold, you know, within a couple of hours. It's just, you know,
yeah.
there hasn't
Yeah,
been
they're
a whole
afraid.
lot of, I believe, and you're the chain analysis guy, but like, from what I hear, there's a bunch of stable coin, hundreds of millions of dollars of stables, you know, ready to be bridged, waiting to be deployed. It's sidelined right now. And the people that do enter, you know, they'll put 1 foot in the pool, they'll take it back out. 1 foot in the pool, take it back out, because they're trying to test the waters. But we're still not quite in that bull market yet. So I just think we've got that euphoria phase still on the horizon. Hopefully, you know, fingers crossed. But I wouldn't expect a whole bunch of whales right now. It's just, you know, it's a sideways grinding, boring action. This is the time of the crypto markets that kind of destroys people mentally, you know, because it's just like, oh, you know, just hurry up and put those millions in already.
If
And I'll-
Matt, can you share at least the top one? I wanted to make 2 points about the 2 links. One is the bridge money that's come across from Ethereum to the chain, the Pulse chain. Can you show that screen? Are you able to see that?
Yep.
And then I wanted to get Access and Silver, whoever wants to make commentary. So what I notice when I look at this is that the dollar amount that's at least on this particular way of looking at what has come across the bridge, dollar amount fluctuates. There are stable coins, which are Tether, DAI, and USDC. but then there are things that change in value on a day-to-day, hour-to-hour basis. So this number fluctuates because the HEX, EHEX, Ethereum HEX that's come across the bridge, at least in dollar value, nearly 2 billion HEX has come across. And in dollar value, that's worth $16 million as far as how it's being calculated. The other things, of course, are Ethereum that fluctuates and wrapped BTC that fluctuates. So out of that, money that has bridged into this ecosystem, giving life, vitality, value to other things, whether it's PRC20s that we don't talk about because RH didn't create them specifically, or if they are basically amplifying the value of or accumulating pulse eggs, pulse chain that we do talk about a lot, right? Or if they are transitioning into PHEX. But at least on a dollar value, what is bridged across is 1/6 is HEX, Ethereum HEX, 1/6. $16 million is about 1/6 of about 90 million.
Here's
so
the fun part, Gary,
right?
is that here's the fun part about that is it wasn't though at the bottom. It was only $7 million. But when this last EHEX pumped and topped, it was 21 million.
Right. So my point is, some of this value extraction, if you want to call it extraction, sell down, cash out, whatever you want to call it, some of it has come across the bridge. $16 million worth as far as today's price of EHEX multiplied times nearly 2 billion. Now, the second link, if you go to Deck Screener, it's the second link in the private chat. Can you open that one up?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now it's organized, or you can reorganize it if you want to, but basically it was organized when I was looking at it. Maybe just hit the liquidity page on the column to make it sort by the highest liquidity at the top of the chart. Okay. So when I'm looking at this, of course, there's a lot of things that are paired, and there's dollar value as far as the liquidity. That's why it's organized, it's descending from higher to lower. If I scroll down to where the EHEX is, can you scroll down just a little bit to hit where EHEX is? EHEX is value liquidity of 2 million. Where's the other 14 million? Where did that go? It went into the other tokens. It went into ERC20 or PRC20s. It went into Pulse Chain and PulseX tokens. So to me, it's still a net positive that Ethereum continues to be talked about, continues to be bought, continues to be a pathway. It also, if you're looking at liquidity, like I was looking earlier today at the farms on Pulse Chain, and the pairs of Pulse Chain farming, whether it's Greg the Duck or anybody else, African Priest, somebody makes a decision about who gets incentive token. And incentive token for the longest has been paired, obviously, with Pulse Chain pairing with Tether, with USDC, with DAI, and also with Ethereum. There was experiments with HEX, but there's Ethereum. So when the value of either of those goes up, most of the time, most of today has been Ethereum's performance. I think it went from 1,800 to 2,100 or something, and it pulls up the value of perception. All we do when we go through all of these details, when we tell these stories, in my opinion, is just create a reason to hold. It's the same as HEX having HEX on HEX return. It's just a reason to hold. That's all it is. This is all marketing and narrative. And you can get into the minutia about you should buy this token because Alex the Whale or BankX isn't going to dump on your head because they don't have those tokens that you're aware of. You don't know that they don't, but we are aware of them holding Ethereum HEX. So again, we talk a lot about price, fear, paranoia. Someone else is going to get there before me. I shouldn't get in now because it's too late. We talk about that all the time, but we don't talk that much, and we haven't for years, about why we got involved with HEX in the first place. We got involved with HEX in the first place because it's true DeFi. It's HEX on HEX return. There's even all the amazing breakthroughs recently to be able to have an executable on your local machine in order to engage this HEX contract. That's the value, but we don't talk about that. We talk way too much about price and who has what we don't have.
Right. So let's get back to shitcoins, you guys. So
Finally,
I mean, one of the things though, that just because the HEX was bridged over doesn't mean that it went into other coins. It can also be sitting here liquid. So
Right.
it doesn't have to be put into
in a wallet. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, so it could still be sitting in the wallet. Or
there was a time where there was a farm for EHEX paired with pulse chain hex.
Yeah.
And people probably bridged across during that rush, and then they farmed for a while. And then once there was no longer a reason to sit in a smart contract other than their own hot wallet or cold wallet, they probably took it back out. I could see that. But what you also can see at the bottom of that bridge is, did it return? Did 2 billion worth of EHEX go outside of the chain? No, it didn't. You can see how much EHEX has left the chain, and it's not 2 billion.
I think it's important to educate people right now, though, that you can get your ERC20s off to a better chain. I mean, we should encourage probably people to be like I've been saying this since day one, right? Backing the value of your ERC20 with the PRC20 counterpart. That was kind of the original thing we were talking about for years before the launch. I'm doing it with a small amount of EHEX PHEX liquidity, but it could be a good experiment in how to actually maintain some stable peg, not 1-to-1, but 0.5, whatever it's at. And we'd be the first one to do it. So even people that do have EHEX, consider if it is liquid, you can bridge it over. I know the user experience sucks, and for new people coming on, with those bridge statistics as well. First of all, let's also account for those 6 or 7 coins that were listed on the bridge stats aren't even all the coins. There's more economic value in other coins, probably pretty negligible, but maybe $1 or $2 million of other altcoins bridging over. But we've also got this direct fiat on-ramp Coast, which I'm also really excited about, because this is the direct on and off ramp. And even though there's only $3 million in there right now, I mean, you can link your bank account to that thing. I mean, that's going to be like pretty huge. I think people are really not giving that the credit yet right now. But I mean, just wait till they discover it, because you can get people with millions of dollars in with a wire transfer, with ACH, Revolut, all these buying methods. And you can buy Pulse or PHEX or PulseX directly from the platform and mint your own stablecoin that's owned by a trust, right? And they're outside the flow of funds. And so it's a pretty innovative way to do a fiat on-ramp. And I think we need more of that stuff. So I agree with the tipped question from AD about user experience sucking. It is way harder to onboard someone to EHEX with, gas fees being $50 a swap right now. And it's only going to get worse until EHEX does, sharding, lol. But anyway, yeah, untenable. The focus should be to direct fiat on-ramps. I agree. That's why I'm so stoked about gainpulsechain.com. Shameless shill.
Dude,
Nice.
I was with you on the bridging coins in and backing them with their PRC20 counterparts in all cases except HEX, where I think HEX, we really need to shift the focus to good staking strategies. And I'll give you an example that kind of hit me the other day. So I was
what's staking?
Right?
Well, I have forgotten what TShares are.
Exactly.
A lot of people forgot, bro.
This is the problem. Is
We
people
gotta remind them.
lost the plot.
Yeah, we're getting
People
over
think that this
7.5
shit- or
HEX
that
per
one of them
T-share
should die.
payouts, and we should be
Happening.
jumping up
Big
and down.
Island boys
about
for
that.
that.
Dude, and so literally DCC and I are just sitting back laughing our asses off on the inside because we can't even believe that this is a discussion, because me and him are already thinking about all of our bags coming down the pipe, right? So for example, let's say you got, I'm not talking to the shrimps, dude. I'm talking to the guys with 10 million plus HEX. Those guys can do a rolling stake every 45 days, pull off 100 to 125,000 HEX, stake that 15 years, and then expect that 125,000 HEX to turn into 500 to 600,000 HEX at a minimum, assuming zero adoption and increased staking. Now, why in the hell wouldn't I every 45 days set myself up for this infinite passive income ladder where I'm making 400 to 500% more HEX on free HEX that I just got from doing short? I have a short rolling stake that's massive, paying me out 500% returns every 45 days forever into the future. That, no one knows staking strategies because we've completely lost.
People don't look at it like that. I think
We
you're
stopped
the one
talking
that,
about staking. We have stopped talking about staking for years because we talk about.
I haven't.
Well,
yeah, look, I'm
I
trying to
haven't
bring it
stopped
back.
talking about
People-
HEX, and I haven't stopped talking about staking. I haven't stopped talking about the value of T-shares and how all this other stuff doesn't matter, and that Pulse Chain was made to make HEX better. Period. End of story. That's not what Richard Hart said. Richard Hart said, I got to make something to fix HEX because HEX is broken on Ethereum.
Why did HEX do what it did? It's because of the inflation model. That's why we're here.
That's why we're here.
Dude,
And that's what we should be talking about.
If enough guys buy 80,000 bucks a HEX, 10 billion HEX on ETH or 150K on Pulse, doesn't matter. I don't give two fucks which one you buy. You stake that shit every 45 days. You pull off 125,000 HEX, and then you set that up for free, 500% returns out in the future. And you just do that perpetually. And guess who's going to have all the fucking HEX at the end of the line? The believers that believed it and understood it here at the fucking bottom. And I'm tired of everything else is bullshit to me. It doesn't fucking matter.
It is. None of this matters. That guy that made that buy, and whether he's got a criminal wallet or what, None of that is going to matter. We've seen whales come. We've seen them go. They've come in. They've crashed the price.
Here's his fucking options. He either buys the price back up to 3 cents or a cent, 2 cents, and then he gets everyone in behind him, and then he nukes into the ETH, and then maybe it goes a little bit lower, and then it gives somebody else a chance to buy, or he nukes here for a loss. Okay, so what? We extended the timeline. Do we all need to get rich tomorrow? I'm sorry, but
well, some people do. You know, that's the thing. Is like people want their mailbox money. They want it this week, this month, even. And so they want to cash out those rolling stakes. I mean, you got the complete opposite perspective of launching a 15-year perpetual staking ladder with your rolling stakes. Like that's pretty good. I like that strategy a lot. I might consider that for myself. Honestly, I might steal that one. But, you know, we got to realize a lot of these people were new here, right? And they haven't been indoctrinated with the long-term ideals and the vision that kind of Richard instilled in everybody in the first probably year and a half. Yeah. So we've got this fresh batch of people and, you know, we're doing the best we can, you know, talking about staking, talking about shares. We've got this calm coin now. We've got fiat on-ramps. I like everything that supports HEX, Pulse Chain, PulseX, even some of the outer things, right? Like that's kind of my philosophy. If it extends the functionality, if it adds more things you couldn't do to HEX and Pulse Chain and PulseX already, I tend to like it. You know, it tends to be kind of playing on the same team. But just a lot of these new people, the people getting in for the first time or that might have just bought the hype at the top of the previous cycle and are looking at this like a meme coin or a get rich quick coin. It wasn't even a get rich quick coin for us, right? Like 2.5 years, not necessarily quick, and nobody takes profit and times the market perfectly either. So, you know, we're all
here's the thing, my man. We put a stream together tonight and we blasted all over the Twitters and everywhere that all these OGs were going to be on here. All these brains were going to be on here, right? So all the guys that in the past, are we the ones that are shilling the right things? Are we talking about the right things or are we talking about all this other shit? When are we going to start talking about, you know, HEX, the fundamentals of it, the TShare, what it means? We should be excited about the payouts today. Like, no, we haven't even talked about the payout today. Payout is freaking phenomenal. We haven't seen payouts like this before. We should be screaming at the rooftops what's going on with HEX and staking and telling people to stake again, because that's all we did in the first 6-8 months of HEX launching was we were teaching people how to stake, how to set up ladders. 555 was the word. I mean, that if you weren't a 555, you were kicked out of the chat room. You were laughed out of the room. I mean, that was what was going on. And why aren't we doing that? The OGs, the guys that have been around,
the Bud Light
we should be the ones
bro.
speaking like that.
Because we allowed I mean, let's just be for real. I mean, we were all kumbaya, one community. We went from a religion of like a one God religion to like a pantheon of gods, right? We went from a one coiner community to multi-coin community now. And we have these dark triad coins. We have these fucking holy trinity coins. And we literally were a one God religion. And now we're this pantheon of bullshit, right? And like, I mean, no, and as all jokes aside about it, I mean, that's really what happened. And then from there, the traders got in, the yield farmers got in, and they destroyed the narrative about it. I mean, like they started this whole EHEX PHEX war, which shouldn't have been started in the first place. And they use that as a way to basically, I mean, I remember the chats, everyone, oh, I cannot believe how stupid you guys were staking and stuff. I'm liquid right now. And I just dumped on your heads. This was, I mean, regardless or not, that was and it was coming from OGs too, not us.
Nobody's jumping on anybody's head that's staked for 15 years.
You know, right, you don't see a lot of anymore. You don't see a lot of people. You don't see a lot of people posting their screenshots of 100% staked for average length of 8 years.
Exactly.
You don't see a lot of people doing that. I was thinking about doing that just today, just to be like, hey, does anybody still care about this? Because I got 7 years, 100% staked on the Pulse Chain side, and yes, I do have some in yield farms too. Don't sue me.
It's okay to have yield farms, but it was shame. The whole thing is, and then one of the reasons why I did these streams and I was like talking shit and stuff was because they shit on basically the religion, and I mean it's not a religion, but basically the religion and the cult and the football team and whatever the hell it is and the fundamentals of HEX. And they made basically people feel stupid because I remember I saw it in every single chat. Mm-hmm. Every single chat I saw, from even my own chats to like every chat you can possibly imagine, everyone was getting made fun of because basically, you guys didn't sell the top, you guys didn't take any profits, you guys didn't sell at 12 cents. I did. I dumped on your heads. Oh, you didn't perfectly trade into this, and everyone allowed it to happen, and then that's what broke the fucking camel's back on it and stuff. Now I think it's coming back now, and there's been a ceasefire fucking finally. And I will say that's one thing, the good thing that I guess Alex the Whale or whatever ended up doing is that it did kind of stop this kind of ceasefire basically, right? Because You had quite a lot of guys tell people dump this entire site into this. No, I don't hold PulseX. I don't know. I mean, this is the whole thing. Instead of having a proportion of every coin and stuff like that. I mean, it's kind of funny. It's like this kind of like inter-gang warfare. It's kind of like everyone's a bunch of instead of we were like this thing of like this nation, and now we're just all gang banging streets like idiots.
But if anybody's worried about somebody dumping on their heads at 12 cents, they don't get this thing anyway. They don't understand. That's the new constitution. If you're in this and you think that way, if you've actually looked at HEX and what HEX is supposed to be, you'd understand that there are sound strategies here, sound investment strategies that are long-term. They have nothing to do with the short-term crap. And for anybody to be intimidated by anybody else's, dump today or tomorrow or even next week, when you have a stake that's 5 years out, it just blows my mind that it would even be thinking like that. I mean, it just...
Yeah, that 5 years is so hard for people to fathom. Like, people are so quick to try to dance on each other's graves, like to get the last laugh of, it's down for the last 2 years, so you made the wrong choice. It's like, yeah, but I'm still up. We're all kind of up if we got in early enough, 300x maybe with the 2-coin copy and the yield, and we're staked for an average of 7 years. That's what people don't really understand, right? It's like, they'll look at the recency bias of, look at the last year. Like, we're on a 10-year time scale here, dude. Like,
yeah.
But Coffee, what have you done for me lately?
What have I done for you lately?
Streamed every day.
Yeah, not much, man. I just chill a course now, dude. I'm a sellout. Haven't you heard?
Richard's gonna be so mad at you, bro. How could you?
Somebody's got to learn. Somebody's got to teach, and somebody's got to learn.
Look, I've talked to whales who want to get it. I mean, I'll be for real. Like, there's a lot of money on the sidelines. Kind of like how the Bitcoin ETF got hinted at, and people saw how fast the candle went up. Yeah. There is a bunch of money on the sidelines, and I've talked to some of these people legitimately. I mean, I'm talking millionaires. I mean, I'm talking people with a lot of money, and this is not my words. But they're like, I'm waiting for Fat Man to come back.
They're all waiting for the trigger, dude. But like, they should have been the past 6 months. Like, the best time to invest was always yesterday. And if you've got a long enough time horizon, you actually can win. And there's never been a 4-year period of Bitcoin where holding Bitcoin less than 4 years. I don't know if this is still true, but it was true last year. You've always been in profit if you held a minimum of 4 years in Bitcoin. Right. So we haven't even really been in HEX for that long enough to play out.
That thing's going to print a big ass green candle, bro.
When we've got 10 years of history, I believe history is going to repeat itself a very similar way with our ecosystem.
No, and I totally believe that and stuff. It's just like, the thing is, it's like, it's been like pulling people's hair. The problem is like stocks are going sideways to down. Real estate's completely fucked. YouTube views are down. I mean, for everybody. I mean, I know this for a fact. I know some big YouTubers. I know some huge channels. Their revenue is down. Like, YouTube is basically cut half of their income down, and then some of them are getting shadow banned, so they're down to like a quarter of what they used to be in 2021. And this is why you're starting to see like social media people acting more sporadic because their money got cut in half. Like, I mean, it's always, I swear, like, if you just follow the money, it's really like at a big macro scale. If you just look from far away enough, like, obviously if you're in there, like, some guys are motivated by other things, but if the money's kind of stressing out, I mean, the economy's doing terribly. The interest rates are high. Jerome Powell said, close the fucking door.
That's facts, though.
Oh, yeah.
Are the strip clubs full, or are they still empty?
Wait, say it again.
Over there in Vegas, are the strip clubs full again, or are they still empty?
I wouldn't know. I'm a man of God, but
good answer.
I'm ex Cristo, sir. Padre, Hijo, Espíritu Santo, Amen. May your only pain be champagne. And I will say this though. Yeah, things are recovering, but the thing is like, I mean, I'd say Miami's doing okay-ish. Vegas is doing okay-ish, but a lot of other cities that don't have the benefit of like having like it's kind of like these two cities have like constant onboarding because there's reasons to go there, right? Like Miami and Vegas. A lot of other cities are doing pretty terribly right now, and this is why I've been like so passionate about pushing crypto and Ethereum and all this stuff, because it's a gateway drug. Buy some Ethereum, cool, and then once they're in there, they're like, wow, I've made money in this. You also can make money in this stuff too, even faster. Really? Tell me more. And that's how you onboard with Honey and stuff. Like, people just like are like Jehovah's Witnesses, like, buy my shitcoin, buy my shitcoin, buy my shitcoin. And sometimes you gotta hit people with like stuff that they actually know about, because most people, they know Doge, Bitcoin, and Ethereum. That's about it, really. Maybe Shiba, maybe. And then, I know two of those are kind of like last cycle's like shitcoins, but this is how you onboard these people, and then they see the ability. Because I mean, crypto is the only thing we've dislocated from the rest of the market. Like crypto is like we're going sideways to up, versus like stocks are just like sideways to down, and real estate's just going down. So I mean, we're kind of like the only game in town right now, and which is great. I mean, it's great for us. We're sitting. I mean, like everyone in this panel right now is doing extremely well. Extremely well, but the average person is not and stuff. So it's like that's why like we really gotta keep continuing on and pushing. Like I'm proud of everyone that's on here, because I mean Silver was working during this bear market. Maddie for sure was working during this bull market. I know Gary was making the rounds all over the world. I mean Captain RG3 is like touring America right now. He's cruising the world right now. Yeah. Coffee's traveling from place to place. I mean, Oxy's got his course and stuff. I mean, you got your course, I got my course. Everyone on this panel has been hustling their ass off, and we just got to continue forward. I mean, because we've got past the hard part now. Now it's just taking it. Now it's just going for glory. Now, you know.
Hell yeah!
All right, let me jump in. Yeah, want to go back to what Gary was actually talking about as well, because I don't think his question was particularly answered about how the liquidity aspect was looking and how those numbers were created. And I see a lot of the valuations that are given. I won't ever view it in terms of, okay, how much is this coin worth versus this coin, and then combine the two to actually be the sum result. I will always go to where the actual value aspect is, you know, where the precious metal is, where the real value is actually derived from, which is going to be, the DAI. It's going to be the USDCs. It's going to be, you know, the stable coin aspects, because everything else is tied to those. And without those, there's no way to port it back to your bank and use it in real life. Like you can't go buy a house with HEX effectively, right? You need to have the fiat currency conversion. So when I'm going through like the LP pools, I am judging what seems to be strong and what seems to be weak, and what are factors of, you know, people on this side who are looking to sell versus how much is actually on this side. And this is one of those big determining factors inside a Pulse chain, which for me gives it a lot more strength in our ecosystem, purely because of how much more convertible to fiat currency is there versus what is the underlying value inside of HEX. So the problem that I see as well is everything goes through pretty much the DAI pools. Everything is, you know, that's how it was set up originally. There are, you know, other pools out there, but not as much volume runs through them. But that ultimately leads to, you know, 10 million, 20 million worth of effective stablecoin, that's the distribution between the entire ecosystem effectively. And to me, it's like, shit, that's a little bit, not really a lot, is it, for a lot of these millionaire OGs that everyone claims to be there. And I think that is one of the factors.
So you're hurting my pride right now.
I'm sorry, bro. You got a lot of other shit going, so don't worry about that. Yeah, you got other places. So what I'm getting at is I want to paint more of a picture of how I see it, just to, you know, get it out there. But for me, you know, the HEX is the window in. The Ethereum chain is very valuable because it's, as everybody knows, is closer to that side. But the risk for me there is really high, because if you, I was looking just a second ago, how much HEX is there? And this is important, okay? So it's going to come to TShares as well. So how much HEX can you effectively buy right now? So on the HEX and ETH 0.3 pool, there's 65 million. And in price support, there's 55 ETH. On the USD pair, I mean, says there's 327 grand, but literally, like, the price drops so quickly on any sell pressure and moves so quickly up. The point is, like, even if you completely mooned it with, like, you know, 5 million, 10 million, you'll acquire that HEX for, and you'll send the price, you know, $1 plus, whatever it is, but you're only going to acquire like 100, right? There's going to be a lot of limit orders and things that get executed as well. And I'm trying to view it from a point, you need HEX to create TShares. So you want to acquire more HEX. It's in a staker's interest to have more of it, right? Because you need more to create more TShares to then get better rewards later on. So with the stability mechanism inside a pulse chain, and this is just the way it is, a larger order can purchase a lot more HEX and have a better staking future with that purchase, because the price doesn't move as much and there's a lot more price support for sell pressure inside of the DAI pools and things like that. The way that I'm seeing how people are more excited about the HEX is because the price is more volatile, and it is. But I'm kind of getting the gut feeling that it's going to be a pump and dump space where people aren't really interested in staking on HEX, but more using it as a mechanism to make quick gains. So what I'm a bit worried about is how the Ethereum ecosystem sees HEX just as a pump and dump coin over time when this thing starts to move. And the other factor is the average buys over on HEX, it's like $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, because when you start to do more volume than that, you're making massive moves. And again, someone has already traded out of that position. Whereas on the other chain, it doesn't really move it all that much. Because again, what happens is it also, I mean, if you're bridging in, you're also moving the pulse chain price, and you're actually benefiting that entire system too. And it will get to a stage that I'm seeing where the whole pulse chain ecosystem pulls up, equalizes, and all those that are trading and want to get in and out are out. And then people start to re-understand, like we're trying to talk about today, is the staking aspect. And because it's cheaper, faster over on pulse chain, and there's more support for it, people are going to believe that when they stake something, there's going to be value at the other side. Whereas currently the values inside of HEX, even though price has gone up, okay, go sell 100 million HEX, go sell 50 million HEX, go sell 10 million HEX, go see what happens. It's like, it just can't be absorbed, other than the next person is quickly going to take it, hoping to get the next pump and then sell on top of that pump to make 20%, right? That's what I'm seeing take place. And I hope that's not, taken out of context in that I don't believe in it, I don't like it. It's just, that is what I'm seeing.
Silver,
is nature there.
You're right. Silver, you're right, but it's kind of a moot point, because wouldn't you use the cheapest chain to buy the cheapest HEX? Isn't Pulse Chain the transaction layer? I'm just asking.
So did you see Chainlink on Grayscale? What's the price of Chainlink on Grayscale right now? It's like $40, $35, $40,
like $50,
right? What's the price on the DEX if you want to get Chainlink or on a central exchange?
$15. I don't know
why
what it is today.
Why is it different? So
it's closest to the
people are going to say
source,
that it's about convenience, about low transaction costs, about why this network needs to be. Everything that gets painted as a negative about Ethereum HEX or Ethereum itself, we pray that it becomes the same problem on Pulse Chain 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road. That's what we pray for, because we want the price to go up. And the same arguments will come back. They'll come back in 4 years and say, look, you shouldn't have staked for 15 years on HEX because now it's expensive on Pulse Chain. We got to fork again. I don't get that the product is the product. The advertisement right now might be where the money is at. If the money's in Ethereum, there's opportunities to bridge. There's opportunities to arbitrage. The product doesn't change. The code doesn't change. The logo isn't any different. The founder isn't any different. The same people in this room talk about both products. Some maybe favor another, but like I don't understand why the same. If you call one a pump and dump token on that chain because it has low liquidity. You know what Rick Rule says, as far as I'm sure you're familiar with Rick Rule from like the silver world and all the commentary he's made over the decades. The cure for low prices is low prices. That's the cure. The cure for high prices is high prices, right? And what that means is if it's low enough, the tokens haven't gone anywhere. If there's low liquidity and then the price goes up 50%, then new liquidity comes in and says, hey, look, my thing that I just had in my wallet, I didn't have any reason to put into sell or to put in as LP. Now it's worth more. It just went up 50%. So it becomes more liquidity into the system. It's just like saying grandma's silver that sat in the kitchen for 30 years comes out when the silver price goes to $50. It's the same thing, man. The cure for supply is the price up because more supply comes into the system. It's no longer dormant capital that sits out there in somebody's wallet. So we're going to have the same problem on Pulse Chain, and I don't see why we have to have, the Oreo discussion. Black is better than white. No, it's the same fucking product.
Yeah, and I mean, to the volatility point, of course, Ethereans already think Hex is dog shit. They have since the beginning. Where were you the whole time? Like, people have been shit talking Hex for years. Like, that's not going to change. The volatility is what people love. That's where the opportunity is, man. That's what traders love. So anyways, my point was that if you're following me on this, you can transact on Pulse Chain with EHEX. And then if you choose to stake, you just bridge it back across. We saw a guy bridge back 41 million EHEX the other day and stake it. Right? So, but it's going to be cheaper to transact over there. There's going to be deeper liquidity. Now, if I go and if I want to buy $1 million of PHEX right now, it's like 10 to 12% slippage. If I want to buy $1 million of EHEX over on Pulse Chain, it's like 40% slippage. So yeah, there's a big difference there in the ability to accumulate. That's actually telling me that EHEX is more rare right now because the slippage is worse, and we need more EHEX across the bridge to be traded. And you know how it's getting that route is it's going from EHEX to Pulse to DAI, or EHEX to HEX to DAI. That's the route. And same for HEX. So there's obviously for those that don't know, there's like 900 million PHEX over there on the Pulse Chain for trade, and there's about, I want to say like 150 to 200 million EHEX, but that's old numbers off the top of my head. But the gist of this is that the activity and the adoption is going to come to Pulse Chain to trade, and everyone's going to benefit from everything. There's no world in which EHEX and PX don't both go up in value at a ratio that will always be fluctuating.
Yep.
I mean, liquidity conditions are going to change over time too. I mean, that might be the case currently, right? Like, EHEX is the elastic one right now because it's cheaper, lower liquidity. But we also have to do, that's the job that we're all doing, is we got to explain to people. And it does kind of get a little basic sometimes. I know it sucks to repeat yourself over and over, but yes, there are two charts. There is PHEX and there is EHEX, and there is a bridge, and here's how you do it. Like, you just got to repeat it, because the more people that know about it, the more we can bridge the gap, the more liquidity can flow both ways and thicken up between them and hold them at a ratio. And, PHEX is going to drag EHEX with it, whether it wants to or not, by the liquidity ratio. And one day, that might flip flop, right? The conditions of today are not going to be the same in 5 more years.
Here's my call that EHEX will have a premium over PHEX at some point this cycle.
I don't know about this cycle, but that's possible in the future for sure. Yeah.
Well, you'll give people heart attacks, that's for sure.
That's a bold claim for this cycle, but yeah, that can happen in 5 years, 7 years, maybe. And then what happens when Ethereum gets sharding too? What happens when Ethereum's gas fees go down? Like, people act like everything's stagnant. The way things are now,
Ethereum's gas fees will
not going to be this way all the time.
Yeah, Ethereum's gas fees will go down.
I love this part, DCC. I love this.
Yeah, Ethereum's gas fees will go down. They're gonna. So there's an upgrade, with Phantom that Pulse Chain is going to be able to use, called FVM or Sonic, and that upgrade can be put onto any Ethereum 2.0 chain. So when that upgrade happens, it's literally a 10 to 11x reduction in gas fees. That'll happen for Phantom. That'll then can be put onto Pulse Chain. That can be put onto mainnet Ethereum, and it will happen this cycle. So we will be having a 10x reduction in Ethereum. I imagine it's going to be in 2025, but I think Pulse Chain could probably put it on in sometime in 2024. So we'll have. I mean, Pulse Chain will even be cheaper and faster, which is really awesome, by the way, which I'm really happy about. But one thing that was always interested in me was like that. Whoever the fat man in the sky or the angel in the sky who has all the sack wallets and stuff full of DAI. It always interested me that they chose DAI out of any other stablecoin. And some really interesting news on that is that MakerDAO recently is basically, they got into the Vitalik Buterin dumped all his Maker tokens because Maker is going to be convert itself from an RC20 token to an L1. And they're going to start paying US Treasury yields to DAI holders. And that's happening. So now the 11 to 13% of all the DAI on the planet is owned by the SAC wallet.
I'm
So
feeling
it's
pretty comfortable. I'll say that
it's
much.
it's a lot of money. So we actually have, there's a possibility that we actually have as soon as Maker becomes an L1, that we actually, that if they go off if we'll see how they act, but if they end up becoming more decentralized and kind of away from the Ethereum Foundation, that they might start making bridge deals that they don't normally do. Like one thing like Circle, right? Like I know for a fact Circle was trying to shake down Phantom for like $68 million to put real USDC on Phantom, and they didn't pay it, of course, right? But that's the kind of stuff that happens in the background where like these, some of these stablecoin entities, and if you really want Tether on your platform, you're going to pay a lot of money, right? Or you want real, it's possible that maybe Maker might end up putting real DAI on Pulse Chain, not PDAI. What?
So they're going to be issuing native DAI, you think, to all these different chains? But like
to deal to I think to a lot of chains to be competitive, yeah, because what'll end up happening, they'll absorb all the liquidity on that side, and then I'm pretty bullish on DAI, because DAI right now is probably, what is it? I think it's like $3.7 billion. It should be over $20 to $50 billion in the next 2 years.
I just hope they don't try that bribe kind of bullshit like the USDC did.
Well, we that's right. I mean, look, I'm just speaking for it's true. They could do that. It is really like they definitely could do that, or maybe they only charge a very small fee to do so. Yeah. But I mean, I don't think they're going to do highway robbery like Circle and Tether has been doing and stuff through Bitfinex and through Circle and stuff.
Yeah, they are an actual crypto company, unlike the other two.
Yeah,
right. Stables are huge, man. We need more stables. We need more on-ramps. And so, again, Coast is going to get huge. They kind of copied the TUSD model, and people don't know, but the true USD model of fiat on and off-ramp being owned by a trust, it's effective. It's never gone down. They had an issue with, I think, one of their banking partners, but they were able to get a new one. Prime Trust, right, when that went down. And so did Coast, right? And then they had to find a new partner, and they did. So they've all come through. And this whole being outside the flow of funds thing, I think that might be the future of legit fiat on-ramps, both on Pulse Chain, Ethereum, and everything. And these algo stablecoins too are coming. I know people like to say algo stablecoins don't work and all that. The liquidity one surprisingly does. Like, I was just as shocked as anybody, because I figured, wouldn't that blow up when Ethereum dips 80%? Wouldn't it cause mass liquidations? It actually didn't. There was only a reasonable amount of liquidations. Everyone that used liquidity was kind of responsible, oddly enough, with their collateralization ratio. Now, that's again up to people to, it's up to people to educate. Don't just do these 110 collateralization ratios. But we're gonna have 2 algo stable coins on Pulse Chain. We've already got one, real old-fashioned one, traditional finance one. Everything's going great, I feel.
Yeah. Well, what was interesting is how they do explain that, and I'm not positive or negative about the liquidity stuff. I'm just commenting that when something goes to zero as a narrative or as like a fear point. In a pair, like say, hey, I've paired my one thing that I like with this other thing I don't know about, and then one side goes to zero. With liquidity fork tokens, if they're forking then you already have your value already. Like, you've already extracted it, right? If it's a 80%, 70%, whatever your loan to value ratio is. So you already made an extraction. Now, if you've taken that extraction and you bought other shit coins or NFTs or whatever, and that goes to zero, then yeah, you lost that too. Like, the whole market can crash. But like, if you are actually trying to use it, in my view, as like real estate or some other kind of outside of one asset class to another asset class, then it makes sense. So
those rails still need to be built. I saw some guy the other day. It was even a HEX or Pulse Chain dude, I think. He was trying to, and this is a far-fetched, this is a long-term vision type of play. What the company he was building was going to be selling real estate for HEX or for crypto. And that's definitely not possible now. That's one of the biggest hurdles to get over. But the world 10 years from now, maybe I'm just a dreamer, but I think it's going to work. It's going to look a lot different. People might actually value this stuff, as much, if not more than $1, right? We might be transacting and have this underlying layer converting whatever currency you want from the coin that they want the most to the coin that you want the most. And that might all be handled by some giant, layer 0 type of deal or whatever it might be. It's just that world that we're going to be living in one day where, you won't have to ask about you don't have to worry about there not being enough liquidity to cash out your HEX. You'll just buy the house with HEX because it'll permeate through culture.
It's coming, man. The Amazon of blockchains is coming. It's not here yet.
Either that or I'm delusional. So it's got to be the latter.
We got to be crazy.
Or the former, rather.
Right. I'll say this about liquidity though. This is just kind of hearsay from the streets, right? In terms of rumors, but Since Vitalik dumped his maker tokens, there's been talks that possibly they're starting to acquire that token now on Ethereum to replace DAI. I mean, there's a lot of little politics going on the Ethereum side. So it kind of puts another feather in the cap for, possibly maybe Liquid Loans does really well and Coast continues to do really well. But it's interesting. The race is starting to get a little, now we have Liquid Loans, and now we have maybe Liquidity making a resurgence. And then, but I think Liquidity on Ethereum will still probably end up getting kind of fucked because of Ethereum gas fees. Even with a 10x reduction, it still would slow, like all DeFi. I mean, DeFi summer in 2020 basically stopped because gas fees, just $50 per transaction, just basically killed it basically. And then
when do you see sharding coming in though? That's still a thing.
Oh,
right?
that's
years away.
27, 28. I mean, it will happen this day. It will happen. It's going to happen next cycle for sure. I mean, people were joking. I mean, people thought, like, they were laughing at me when I was saying that there was going to be a Bitcoin spot. I mean, an Ethereum spot ETF. Bum, bum, bum. Look what happened. BlackRock just filed for a trust, and the reason they're doing the trust is because Grayscale's a trust that's converting into an ETF, and if it looks like that's going to be allowed, so there's now a case of it happening. So they're like, hey, they can now fight it in court and say, hey, well, this is an Ethereum trust. Can we convert it to a Ethereum, ETF, spot ETF? Well, I mean, yeah, I guess. Bam. So they're pretty much jumping the gun and saying, like, oh shit, Grayscale beat us on the Bitcoin one, but we're gonna beat them on the Ethereum one. And Wall Street likes Ethereum a lot more than they do Bitcoin. I mean, even though they like Bitcoin quite a lot, they can manipulate Ethereum a lot easier. And this is why, like, they've been buying up a ton of the companies, or trying to own as many companies as they can on the Ethereum side, because they can manipulate it a lot more easier, basically, than they can Bitcoin. But this is not just bringing more money. I mean, we're gonna make money. I mean, we're gonna make tons of cash. I just feel terrible for the dum-dums coming in fucking 8 years from now that are just gonna be kind of like slave class, basically.
That's the late adopters. They don't get all the gains because they didn't want to be crazy enough to buy. But let's go back to silver.
Dude, they're 11. They're 11 years old. Quit giving them shit. They're 11 years old right now. In 8 years, you're entering the market. You're like, you're the slave class. You just turned 19.
Yeah, I said late adopters. For the record, didn't say slave. That was Miguel. Just kidding.
You're late.
Yeah, back to silver though. Like, what else you got? Chain analysis wise, anything cool to report on?
Yeah. So I was just putting up Nancy now as well. I mean, I was documenting for a while that I was seeing like these, stablecoin outflows for like forever from exchanges for the last 2 years or whatever. What with the explosions of exchanges and lack of trust, and then at the same time the purchasing of ETH and now the staking of ETH. It's just like these metrics are like this, and that's why Ethereum is looking so solid. I think I can't remember where in my tweet that I said it, but it's like this thing's gonna pop. The supply really is dropping. Again, it's the same situation where it does have a lot of the LP support, because there's a lot of value there, and literally there's like hundreds of millions of dollars waiting down at like $1,500 to buy it, right, in big LP candles. And it's just not going to go back down there currently. And at the same time, the staking percentage of the circulating supply is just on an uptrend. So it's like these metrics are perfect. And it's like we just need to bring that into HEX a bit more and have more people staking it to create the same sort of metric that is exactly happening inside of Ether at the moment, because there's no reason why it can't. It's just, again, getting people united and breaking out of this. Let's be playing this 20% profit take move, right, overnight, on low liquid moves, as opposed to what is the bigger game. I did step away from HEX just because, when things go flatlined and everybody's, fighting, fracturing apart inside the community. And I think that was something that really, it's hard when, everyone here early inside of HEX, we're all, together, united. And then it's like, you just see kind of, there's another battleship over there in an RG3 sort of pirate form, but you got one ship over there firing cannons at you got one over there firing cannonballs at you here, and it's like you've got all this shell shock going on, And I've always tried to just guide the best I can to whoever wants to listen to my side of how I visualize things. But in terms of the actual, people just care about price. That's all they care about. They don't care about the knowledge. They don't care about this. They just want to see price go up. They don't want to actually educate themselves, which, is exactly what people do inside of this panel. A lot of them have courses to help educate you, right? It's an important factor. You invest in yourself. You either invest with your own time and learn it, or you can fast track it through the offerings that people, diligently make and have interaction with questions on a one-to-one basis a lot of times. So yeah, I could prepare. I could show you some things that I see happening on chain. Ether exchange outflows in the last from June 2023, about 5 million Ether has left exchanges, right? Which is going into your keys, onto personal wallets. Stablecoin outflows, they've gone from 25 billion down to 21 billion. So that's 5 billion of stablecoins that have left exchange.
That's usually a good sign for people listening too. For people listening, stablecoins leaving exchanges generally means they're going to be experimenting with it in the crypto ecosystem, the crypto universe. I know RG, yes. You've got some kind of app that your app has been blowing up with notifications on 100 million, dollars worth of Bitcoin moved here, moved there. And you can even see it even looks like some of the HEX whales. They're not necessarily always buying, but the other day I saw 250 million HEX moving around from wallet to wallet. Just posturing or whatever it's going to be. But yeah, whales splashing around, but not making huge moves yet. Makes you think.
Yeah. And some of these, could be OTC deals. I mean, some are obviously, mining pools, cashing out or moving around, but there's been a lot more activity over the last few weeks, a lot more activity on the Bitcoin side and the Ethereum side. And believe it or not, some of the other chains too, you see big moves. XRP's got big moves. Solana got big moves. Ethereum's got big moves. So behind the scenes, a lot of these coins are moving right now, and they're just posturing for this bull run. Everyone's posturing right now, and that's what we're seeing. If we're doing any analysis right now, we're seeing posturing, and it's when the trigger starts getting pulled, we're going to start seeing the moves. And look, every time we see the bigs move, and we like to say we're decorrelated from the market, but we're not. When the market goes up, we all go up. So when we start seeing the value come in and stop playing around behind the scenes with each other, doing the OTC stuff, then that's when the bull market's going to set in, and then we can all start singing "Kumbaya" again, and everybody can quit complaining and crying about it.
Trust me, we're always going to find something to fight about. Let's not put these rose-colored glasses on. Because Silver, you referred to like back in the glory days when it was all kumbaya, and I'm just thinking, what the hell time was that? I must have missed that time. There's always been some drama going on or something. But hey,
but everybody here is needed, and everybody in this ecosystem, in the RH ecosystem, came here for a reason. We came here because we saw a better way to do crypto. That's why all of us are sitting here. And we've just got to remember that. We've got to keep pushing that narrative out there, because HEX is better than Bitcoin. I say it again. HEX is better than Bitcoin. And we know that. And that's where the market has gone, to Bitcoin. And when it moves, it is going to move into HEX. That's what's coming. And we just have to see the value. We need a couple more cycles, and things are going to change. It already has changed. We've gone from being the outcast, they hated us, they thought we were scammers, to now they're like, they don't know what to do with us because we're not going away. Right.
We're like a cockroach, man. They can't kill us.
They can't kill us.
We're not cockroach, man. We're the honey badger, baby.
Honey badger.
Honey badger.
Bitcoin took that. I don't want to be there.
Digital hermits. Yeah. I mean, when is Ethereum going to catch up to our level of staking? Because it's last time I checked, it was totally user controlled coins are 75% staked. And at some point you get so high that then the only amount of coins that's left, pumps up the price way higher than it would normally be. And then the inflation rate gets higher compared to the amount of coins that are left on the market in people's hands. I think HEX is such a long-term game.
Which coin are you talking about?
I was just talking about pre-fork. Those were the statistics that I was aware of. If the OA owns, 95%, then really it was the sacrifice that it took another third or another half of the user-controlled hex out of the supply. And so if you have 75% of user-controlled coins locked, Ethereum's got a lot of catching up to do. And also that shows you how powerful of a value proposition it is for people to pay their future self.
So, Maddie, what you're saying is we need another sacrifice.
That's exactly what I'm saying. When
Richard Hart wallet.
Another
We're
sacrifice.
missing one of
Another new
the
coin.
actually, as a matter of fact.
I would do it again. I would go just as hard. I wouldn't change a thing.
I know.
Look at that.
We're still missing one Infinity Stone, you guys. We need the Richard Hart wallet. This was promised, you guys. One more sack to rule them all.
Oh God.
I know it's taboo. Oh no,
I
sacrifices.
I got a
Oh,
hard
so
stop,
down.
guys. It's time for me to get my Geritol and get tucked into bed. Freaking love
Thanks for
all of
staying
you
up.
here. Thanks for having me up and
Appreciate
Silver,
you coming
keep doing
on.
what you're doing and chain analysis is important. We need to see what's going on back there. We don't necessarily need to scare everybody or make something out of nothing. It is nice to know. It is nice to analyze and see what's moving around. And I want to tell everybody out there, quit trading this damn RG3 coin, man. What are you fools doing? I don't understand why you guys are doing that. I keep
Buy
seeing
the
that thing moving
DTC
up.
coin right now. Buy Axie coin. Not fucking with you.
DC, dude, you got to call me. We've got some
Yeah.
business we got to handle. Call me tomorrow.
Yeah, I'll call you tomorrow. 100%.
All right, guys. Love all you. I got to roll. Have a
Yeah,
good one.
RG, thank you.
Do it.
Later.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. I meant to say keychain. When Tamagotchi wallet. When Tamagotchi wallet.
I actually haven't streamed. I don't think, at least on the topic of Silver just stepped out, but Silver met Roger Ver and had a nice conversation with him when we went to Malaysia about a month or 2 months ago. And he gave great history. Obviously, I did this stream, which was like 45 minutes with Roger as far as the interview stuff. But on stage and throughout the weekend, he engaged with a lot of the hexagons. So I know he talked with Silver directly. I know that he talked with Danny and with Yoon that were also there, Hex guys. And, he gave in general support of the market. Like the market is going to do what the market's going to do. He started as Bitcoin Jesus, really, as far as the crypto side. His buy-in was $400,000. He sold, Supercar in order to buy into Bitcoin at the time, so 400,000 BTC. But he also listed during his talks, I would guess 30 to 40 other companies that he had bought into as far as a VC that support the cryptocurrency industry. And he's always been someone that's rather similar to Tim Draper. Best coin to serve the use of the subculture or the use case. So if Silver, you had conversations with Roger. What was your impression? Was that the first time you'd met him? I think Crypto Coffee might have met him as well.
Yeah. First time I met him, known of him for a long time. So it's like wouldn't say starstruck, but on the lines of wow, I'd really like to have an interaction with him, and let's think of some quick questions on the spot. But he was one of those guys that's really hard to actually get because when they come off stage, there's always a massive audience around them, so you have to spend a lot of time waiting before you can get over there. And yeah, he starts off naturally defensive because I think he's just one of those people that are attacked quite a lot. And because he's gone out and challenged, seen things that are wrong inside of the system, seen manipulations that are taking place, and actually goes out of his way, almost put himself into danger to also speak truth. So that's something I resonated a lot with him on, and I shared my feedback that I appreciate everything that he's done inside the space, because I think the place would not be the way it is even if corruption has come in from other entities and governmental areas, which I think he has a strong feeling that is what's taking place in certain sectors, and he's out there trying to fight the good fight. Same as Richard's out there trying to do the good fight as well. So we do need these, very prominent people to go out. And it's actually interesting because when we was, Gary was setting up the meeting with him, Gary was just to send a tweet over to him saying, "Hey, Roger, can we do an interview?" He wouldn't even acknowledge it or see it. So I think one of the really important things that we should put out there is, even though, a lot of the Hexkins go to Hex conferences and post-chain conferences and online sort of things, they're actually, and this was one of my first ones in a few years that I've gone to, it's actually very important to take yourself out of the comfort zone and to travel and have the, yeah, it's an expense. Yes, it's a cost, but it's also an experience. And it's also something that will help guide you, especially I'm looking forward to the next one, wherever that may be. Because, I'm watching how Gary goes around and networks in an in-person way. And, he's like zig, 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 zig all over the place, right? It's insane.
He's
And
a great connector.
just to make random... Yeah, exactly. And just to make random conversations with people is not really in my comfort zone. So it's something that I'm trying to, go out of my way to do. But luckily enough, there was a few Hexicans there. So it's like, we kind of sat together for most of it, but then branched off and talked to various people. And then out of nowhere, other people start to mingle and things like that. And interestingly enough, I mean, I actually sent a message to Gary saying, let's do a follow-up after the Nomad thing, but I think maybe you missed that or not interested or whatever, but it's fine. I would like to say that in terms of like value of conferences, I would not say the value comes from what is spoken on stage. It is more about who is inside of the audience and who you're connecting with there. So I was quite disappointed with what information I got, which was basically not very much of from the actual conference, but the value from the networking aspect was worth 10 times probably, subject to what happens. But yeah, the more confident you go, I would recommend everybody go out and start doing some of these things. Yeah, it's going to change. And then also because it's personal, it's not online, right? There's always comments and everything online and people have opinions. But when you're there face to face and you're meeting with real people, sharing a beer or whatever it is, and a story about this, and then you're sharing phone numbers, right? So it's a completely different world. And it's only when you step into those doors open. They don't really open online because there's too many people trying to message, Roger to have a chat. He's not interested. He's too busy. And yeah, we were lucky that Gary managed to set up a short 20 minute, 30 minute little clip. And we were waiting for him to come back because we're brainstorming inside while he's going off to go sign something. And like, we're coming up with all these questions, and Gary's very good at retaining. Like when you give ideas to him, he can hold it and then put it into a fantastic conversational manner. And Roger was clearly, enjoying that energy, and we were getting some good footage. So it would have got even better if he was coming back. But obviously, I think you're trying to set up a part 2 for that. But yeah, we tried to get something out of it anyway. So no, I valued it a lot.
I wanted to comment that it's kind of like the Boy Scout stuff that I did as a little kid. They give you, they say, be prepared. That's the slogan. That's the motto, be prepared. And so when I remember several years ago, I invited some people to go to an event and they, wavered. When they wavered, I didn't think they would come, but I asked Crypto Coffee to come from Chicago to Miami for this event. And he had free time and he decided to do it, took his own expense to do so. And so now I felt the pressure. I was like, uh-oh, if I just went by myself, it's kind of like running by yourself or having an exercise commitment to yourself. You're not really that accountable because nobody's going to know if you cheat, if you didn't go running that day. But because Matt was committed to a plane flight and because he was going to go to that event, I thought I wanted to do well with networking. So part of my thought process was, who's on the panel? Let's look at all 14 people I think that were on the panel. And then how can I have an in? What can I do? Is it going to be a cold contact, reach my hand out for a handshake and introduce my name and got to stand out like every single person out of 500 to 700 people that were there? I'm not going to stand out at all, right? They're glad handing with everybody because they're playing the political game of salesmanship for their own content. So I decided to print those cards that some people have seen. I think Matty used them for his conference. And the card was simply a contact method for me. So because I felt accountable to Crypto Coffee is why I made the cards, and each of those cards was specific to the individual panelist. So I made a Robert Kiyosaki one, a George Gammon one. I made a Jason Hartman. I made Lynette Zhang, Rick Rule, all these different people that were panelists that I had never met before. Robert Barnes, who's now the lawyer for some of this petition stuff, right? That all came from that decision that Coffee made. Not just my decision, Coffee made.
Yeah, I did that. No, just kidding. Dude, that was awesome. That was really awesome. When you brought those Popple cards, I still remember that, and I'm like, I hope you're still doing that strategy because people don't know this. All the work that Silver and people like Gary especially do behind the scenes, that they planted the seeds of Robert Kiyosaki and the other three guys from George Gammon, all those other guys, and then having a talk with Roger Ver on camera. I watched that.
Rolo.
Yeah, I mean, hey. DCC's out here doing his thing too. And now I'm in Puerto Rico, so I'm going to be hopefully networking with a lot of these guys locally as well. I always joke, but I'm actually serious. I would love to meet Ty Lopez. He's awesome. I'm a big fan. Ty Lopez, if you're listening, love to meet you someday. But no, there's one called Coin Agenda coming up in the Caribbean. It's just a little pricey, like $1,600, but they claim to be the inner circle of investing in crypto and Web3. So I don't know if that's true, but that's on December 11th. And so I might be hitting that one up. You know, it's that expense. It's like $1,600, but it also gets you off your ass, and it kind of it motivates you. You're like, well, I already spent this money. Now I'd be kind of silly if I just sat here and didn't talk to anybody, didn't network with anybody. And yeah, I appreciate you back in the day giving me that opportunity as well, because I had gone to work conferences and stuff for shit that I just wasn't passionate about back in the consulting industry, the finance industry. I would go to all these things, but I just like did not care because nobody there was trying to really be a mover or a shaker, you know. And you go to these crypto things, everybody's an innovator. Not everyone's going to have a good idea, but everyone's kind of a thinker, a dreamer, and like they've got a plan to make kind of a better world. So that's why I like going to all these crypto events.
Yeah, I've been planting some seeds ever since the 2022 Bitcoin conference. If you know any of the famous Bitcoiners, I pretty much, you know, got a lot of them here that I had pictures with, a couple different billionaires and
Nice.
You know, big names in the space. Yeah. And that's why we hosted an actual HEX event at the 2023 Bitcoin conference that I don't know, 60, 70, 80 people came to. And then just recently I went to a tech conference, and that was off the charts. There was nobody shilling anything there except for me. And I got to have a huge outsized impact. I would say the number one thing that HEX has going for it is the community. We have the strongest, most organic community in crypto, and other cryptos, sure, they like ignoring that, but they're going to keep being reminded of it over and over again. And the more times they see that, the more we're going to convert those people.
Let me comment that I set a goal. Like if you're going to go to any of these events, one is I think you should go accountable, and accountable means like Matt made me accountable to that particular event. Or if I know that Dollar Cost was bringing Charlie, and Charlie was going to the Bitcoin Miami event, I put on my networking head, you know, my brain, days before they ever arrived. So I was thinking, okay, now I feel accountable. Now I feel like there's a scoreboard. Right.
If you thank you for that, because that really helped out. I mean, that really helped. Gary doesn't get his flowers enough, like how much of a connector he is and stuff. But that Bitcoin Miami event, it wasn't just that, and Maddie's event, but we went to tons of after parties with a bunch of crypto influencers and stuff that we would have never met. We met BitBoy and all, and some of these people, I can't say the names, but some of these people are onboarding into HEX right now. That were seeds from back that one I guess it was like 2 conferences and a half. Those 2 conferences and a half has turned into like brand new places for new channels to kind of at the very least, they're not attacking HEX anymore. They're kind of like neutral to positive towards it, which is really good. And that's how we change the narrative.
I've noticed that shift. A lot of people are not hating, and the ones that still are just like the most soy boy cucks you can ever imagine. You know, it's just like the people that, oh man, they're just kind of spineless worms, you know, like I don't even know how to describe it, but we're getting more respect. We're getting the respect we deserve. And that's just by the game of attrition, you know, survival. So we're still here. We're still talking about it. You just got to keep the hope alive, keep the spark alive. And yeah, you guys are all doing a great job networking. So
I think to add to Gary, when he said, do you have any idea how much net worth there probably is on this floor? And I don't know what it was, like 100 tables or something. I think Gary reckons it's like, I don't know what, 7 billion or something like that. A few being multi-billionaires themselves or whatever, but he's just a significant amount of money. And one thing that was actually interesting was our group sitting down at one of the tables, and there were a couple of gentlemen next door from Australia. And obviously I won't say too much, but they run a very successful business. They have a lot of disposable income on a weekly basis that they just sometimes just like to use for whatever they want to entertain themselves as well, right? So interestingly enough, a few of us get tagged along. We go out and we end up building like a good bond with these guys while we're at this event. And that's something that just would never happen in any other realm. And what I find probably better is, instead of being crypto type conferences, it's high net worth type conferences. I think have more onboard and power. So we don't have to deal with, the narrative of how HEX and Pulse Chain is perceived. But for people that are easier to teach, here's this thing, you can mine it, stake it, however you want to say it, and it can generate these things, and you get exposure, and maybe they get interested in it. A lot of these guys are multi-$100 million type players. So 1% into this project, into this token, maybe they want to put a little bit in here as well. And it's, again, when they get to see not just one guy trying to sell a coin, but there's more of us also in that environment that have different opinions, and here's my channel, you can have a look at this one. It's really interesting. So I think it's definitely something that people should look to. I mean, I flew from one country to another country just to go do this. It's hotels, it's not cheap, but you never know what might come. And I think those who are in a position to be able to do it, not that anyone wants to go waste like 10 grand flying from one country to another, dealing with all the stuff, right? But as a duty to ourselves and the community, to try to keep the system going, and the next generation to come in, and the education to flow through, because too many people will just walk away and retire, right, and think, okay, that's it, I'm done, and they've never really been a figurehead inside of the space or anything like that. So I think it's good for people that can go to these events and develop yourself into a different side of life, right? For me, it's something I've
when
never
you're talking
done.
about the high net worth places, that's very important, because I think of it as dream building. I can't buy some of the boats that some of my friends have, but one of my friends has a lot of these 100-foot long yachts. And he invited me to go to the Miami yacht, our boat event that just happened. I just posted about it like maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago, and in Fort Lauderdale. And he's asking brokers and shippers and things like that how to relocate basically his mini fleet. He's got 5 boats. I'm not in that class. None of us, I think, speaking here, are in that class. But it's great dream building. It's like, okay, well, here are the good things that come along with this luxury lifestyle. Oh, here's all the headaches, and it ends up becoming like conversation with dealers, brokers, manufacturers. One of the, I won't name who they were, but basically significant Hexagon, I think, had DM'd me, messaged me, and said that they were going to have, they were going to be part of the show, that they have a company that imports from Abu Dhabi or whatever, these high value vehicles. So like, where there's all kinds of opportunity at high net worth locations. Amelia, what is it? Concours d'Elegance, which is like car shows, Barrett Jackson, which is like a high value vehicle auction that happens very frequently. These are good opportunities just to go do your own dream building and network. Do more than one thing at the same time.
I love that. I mean, it just it's a great point from both of you guys, Silver. Like, there's way infinitely more money outside the ecosystem, and people haven't chosen their team already. So they haven't dug their heels in the sand, and you don't have to beat around the bush and try to say, there's almost no point in convincing a Bitcoin maxi because he's already made up his mind. So anyway, I got to go, guys, because it's pretty late over here and I'm tired, but I hope you guys got some value out of this.
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Hey, if you're brand new to crypto, which you're probably not if you've watched this far, hexpassiveincome.com. We'll see you later.
See you, Coffee.
Peace, Coffee.
Yeah, I got to step out too. I don't know if you're going to wrap up soon, but I'm going to go ahead and step out too.
All right, later, Gary.
Yeah.
See you guys.
See you later, Gary.
Thanks for coming on.
Any lasting thoughts? Any final death wishes?
I mean, I don't want to hear any fucking crying later when we're above sack rate. If you haven't bought below sack rate, shame on fucking you. I mean, you have time on PulseX, but Pulse Chain's right around the corner, man. I don't want to hear any of this bullshit later on.
Yeah, it's coming,
man. Bros, like we're gonna be. I mean, by the middle of next year, we're at the very least, Ethereum is going to be back to its all-time high. So is Bitcoin. The ETF's coming. People say, why does the ETF matter? Why does the halvening matter? Because the market cares about it. If the price goes up, it moves the rest of the market. So these events are enough to, at the very least, get us back up to $50,000+ Bitcoin, $1 trillion Bitcoin, which then makes the prices on everything much higher. So it's going to be. I think next year is going to be a pretty decent year. It's an election year as well. We still are probably still going to end up having some sort of bill trying to get passed about stable coins, I would imagine, for next year. But in terms of like mega FUD, I think we're fine. We'd be more in danger probably early 25, if anything, in terms of legislation against crypto or anything like that. So next year's going to be a pretty good year, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
So get your coins now because, man, they're not as cheap as they were a year ago. You got, like I was saying this on my stream last November, you could have bought $15,000 Bitcoin. And I used the Bitcoin thing as an example for the rest of the cryptos. Most alts, most L1s, most of these things are still pretty close to their sack rates or below their local lows. And they're just barely above that right now. So this is the time, get the bags now, because I mean, this is when people call you lucky, and it wasn't luck.
Hell yeah.
Anything is possible. There you go.
I'm with you, man. I think next year is going to be a good year for cryptocurrency. I don't know how deep we want to go on that now that we're wrapping up, but
how good? Fuck it, Axe. I mean, let's go Moon Boy.
Break it down.
Oh well, shit. Fuck it, let's drop it all out there. Well, I mean, there's a good chance that Bitcoin. I really see this happening in one of two ways. Either we get like the big move and then we get like a mid-cycle curse, and then the funds drop all their coins on retail and all the incoming money. Right. And we get a down year, and then we close out 2025 or 2026 with a secondary blow off top. Or we just get a nice parabolic advance going into 2025, as you would expect, similar to 2015 through 2017. But I think that's less likely. But because of the progression of, no more BitMEX, no more FTX, less scammier exchanges out there playing the market, we might get a more natural parabolic curve of fresh money coming in with the trillions that are going to come in, right? So, I'm optimistic, right? Mm-hmm.
I do have a bit of a I've had something called cycles theory, right? Where obviously this will be proven out, and I think in the next 8 years, I think we'll have enough data where we can say it's true or not. But from what I see, we've done it twice now, where we have a 2-cycle theory, which is basically the first 4-year cycle is a early adopter sort of foundational character, and the second's a retail cycle, and then you have a giga crash, and then it resets itself again, right? Believe it or not, 2021 I believe was actually an early DeFi native, because if you think about it, right, when HEX came out, I mean, literally 2020 is when all DeFi was created effectively.
I mean, it's not even arguable. Like, when you look at the Ethereum chart, it set the bottom against Bitcoin when HEX launched,
right? Because we had in 2019 we had HEX, cool, but that was at the tail end of 2019. Nobody really knew what Uniswap was. There was no Aave, there was no Chainlink, there was nothing, there was no bridges, there was basically nothing. All you could do is just send crypto. Mm-hmm. And That's it. I mean, you had to buy your crypto on exchanges. I mean, all you could do is send it to another person. That's it. Now we can swap. Now we can borrow. Now you can leverage trade on chain. I mean, the amount of things you can do now. You can stake. It's insane the amount of stuff. Rebase tokens, if you like that. So, I mean, but that wasn't even possible in 2017. And if you actually look at what happened during this bear market, we had this big crash. Almost all the L1s survived. Isn't that weird? So that means to tell me that basically the technologies are being improved, and we're going to, this next one is going to be a pretty big S curve, because I was saying in 21 that, at most we had maybe like 4.5% of the world population in crypto. And I think I saw some articles recently that was the case. A lot of people during the time were saying it was way higher. Like we've hit 20%. No, a bunch of bullshit. You're hanging around with too many strippers. But, we hit 4.5% of the population in crypto. Maybe this time around we hit 10 or 12 or 15%, and then the next cycle after that, maybe we can finally hit that the end of the decade, the 2029, we can finally hit like that, like the 20%, the Pareto principle, the 20% of the population's dabbled in crypto, right? Like during the bear market a year ago, right? During that Bitcoin low and DeFi is dead, HEX is dead, it's all over. The Pulse chain's never going to launch, everything's bad. We had like 0.1% of the world population even dabbling like with crypto at all. Like I think there was reports we had less than 1 million actual users of DeFi total across all chains. Total.
I'm with you, man. I think this last cycle, this previous cycle here, legitimized and brought forward that next wave of adoption in DeFi, right? So you had that. First, you had 2 cycles. You had the start of Bitcoin, and then the secondary part of that cycle, which was the double bubble blow off top. Because we had the $30 up and the crash to 2 and wick down to penny. And you had the double bubble to $1,000. That was your first cycle. Now your double cycle theory, the second cycle was to 2017 top, the ABC correction, and then the double top. And inside of the end of that cycle was DeFi comes online. But that was like for 1% of the world population. Yeah. And now we're going into the actual real onboarding of people understanding and grappling with DeFi legitimately. And then you get things like you'll see liquid loans as an example on Pulse Chain. That's going to, create green candles on Pulse in anticipation. Like that's one of the most bullish things going on with Pulse Chain. Because it reduces sell pressure and it's a pump of metal going into that, right? And so that's just one example. Now you figure that's going on all these different layer 1s that never died. People are even buying up Solana. Like, what the fuck is going on here?
And that's a crazy. That one to me still is pretty crazy. And because community wise, like the NFT side's kind of alive. That's about it. Like every other coin on Solana is like totally, people don't trust it at all. Like everything that Sam has touched or FTX has touched or any of these VCs have touched, no one's using it at all. Like Sable, like all their lending platforms, like they basically have to start over from scratch. Like, because who trusts that shit? I mean, like they had the CEO of Sable, that it's basically like their version of Aave, effectively, said that we didn't like it that we were only like 1% of the total TVL of Ethereum. So what we did is they literally said this on video. We lent money to each other, and that way on chain it showed that we at least had 10% of the total TVL of Ethereum. Because it wasn't fair that Ethereum had more TVL than us. Just like blatantly lying numbers and stuff. That's the kind of stuff that was going on in Solana. That's why we're already different already, because not only is HEX going to perform really well, all the other underlying coins are going to there's very, very few L1s that their altcoins did good. At most, you had one like Aave had Trader Joe, did okay, cool, 100x plus, right? And then you had Aave do crazy. Solana, nothing. Like Steppen, no, there's nothing.
I don't even know the names of any of these other coins.
And that's what I'm telling you. Is that nobody does and stuff. But it's you would think
that's my point, is that it's none of that even pierced the consciousness of who matters in crypto anyways, or beyond, right? So it's what it was a quick overgrowth, like a forest growing too much, and then all the shrubbery had to get burned down so that the real rooted big ass redwood forest could come and replace it, basically. And I'm excited to see, now that we're going to have a more natural, longer timeline for this to all play out and grow out, who's on top. Whoever survived this crash is gonna be here for another decade, right?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. But I will say this next bear market is going to be pretty horrible because I think this is when we actually see L1s die. I think if this is when the buck hits the road, man, we're like, there's just not going to be any more funding. Like, oh, you guys failed, basically. It's kind of like the search. There's only going to be so many search engines, So
consolidation into what works. Yeah,
and what works exactly. And I mean, I already know with the outside of just some crazy shit. I mean, like we have enough people. Like Pulsechain's going to survive. Like, that's not even. It's not even a question. Like now we're just seeing who else. We've sat down at the table now.
Yep.
We're now seeing who else is going to sit down.
Yep. Exactly.
Let me ask you guys what you think about RH's bearishness on the economy in general and the stock market, and the fact that he released a 45-minute podcast and it didn't move the market.
Because it's AI. No, I'm joking around. No, it's because he didn't release it on his channel, and it was like released on a Telegram group that almost no one checks the pinned messages for, or anything. So they're like, "What?" And then thank God for Hexo, because I really think most people wouldn't have caught on to it, or at least would have caught on to it like 2-3 days later. But I mean, I think that's really what it was. Really, that it didn't come from Richard's Twitter, or like, hey, look at this. He could have been like an audio drop. What's this? I just found something.
Well, it did later. It later posted to his Twitter, right? After Hexo and I reposted it.
Right, but
so
it should have.
About the sorry to cut you off. Are we talking about the bearishness on like real estate and stocks and that? And
No. We're talking about the RH post, the audio thing, 45-minute thing.
Oh yeah, I listened to that. I thought that was pretty good.
It was, yeah.
It's just he didn't talk. He didn't really talk crypto prices. He didn't talk.
Right.
People want him to be like they don't want him to be full on like
focused right now, which I think is bullish, right?
Say that again.
I think like that talk and in general, he's been very regulation focused, regulations, and so I think that's good. Somebody's got to fight that fight. Let it be him. But yeah, no, I was more interested in the his comment about this. Basically, like, stock market's overheated, real estate's going to crash. People have been buying bonds for 3 years and losing money, and yields have been going up on the shorter end, and the yield curve is inverted and doom and gloom. Yeah. At the same time, saying HEX has not saying without saying, like, HEX can overperform in these types of conditions, right? But I look at that and I'm like, okay, so the way I break that down is short term, midterm, I'm bullish because the Fed paused on rates. And so you saw this massive run up on one of the largest moves in the S&P that we've seen since 1994. It was like, I don't know, 9 or 10 days consecutive green candles, print. Bonds had the 10-year bond did a huge reversal, 5% candle today. And so there's obviously something going on in the background now where, Fed's paused on rates, and that usually has like a timeline of anywhere from 5 to, let's say, 9 months ish before they actually do that pivot. And then when they do that pivot is when you get the crash, because what happens is funds or asset holders dump their assets at a higher price to come back in and borrow cheap money after the pivot on rates, on Fed rates. They borrow this cheaper money and then they buy back their assets on a huge discount. It's just simple. It's just a rinse repeat cycle that happens all the time. So actually what this does is it gives you runway here where Fed pauses on rates and maybe marginally increases or lowers them for anywhere from 5 months to upwards of a year. And then when they finally drop the rates quickly and break something is when you're going to see that crash that he's prophesizing. But in the meantime, I expect upside on a lot of this stuff.
No, I mean definitely. Go ahead, Silver.
To add to that as well, because a lot of times in the early days, Richard always there'll be a message in between the message, and it would always be a bit difficult to get it sometimes. But I think in this particular situation, what I followed on from what Axis is saying, the interesting part where he doesn't directly talk about crypto. But then I think in the follow-up tweet as well, there was subject to not being a solar flare or something like this that just knocks out the internet. I think he's implying that, the economy is, as everybody knows, is completely fucked and is going to go in for a massive correction. And I think flight to safety, which now a lot of the heads of banks and all these sort of things, they are commenting on this. And I think that's probably him reinforcing, saying again, if you're in cash and you're in certain aspects, you might want to start looking at potentially getting into crypto. Obviously, without him saying getting into crypto,
Right.
that's probably how I would take the underlying message of it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I agree.
I mean, I will say this. So, I mean, obviously, the reason the equities market pumped is because basically we're not going to have any increases for the rest of the year. There's still, I still think there's a possibility of one more increase at least in Q1. But as things stand, yeah, we will start getting rate cuts in July, and then we should get a full 100 basis point decrease in the Fed interest rate in 2024. And then a 125 basis point decrease in 2025. So we should be in the high threes, middle threes by 2026. And that's what makes things really interesting is that it's the first time we're going to go into a crypto bear market with rates going down. Weird, very interesting because like crypto only exists. I mean, crypto was basically worth nothing at the time. You know, $1 billion market cap at most when interest rates were going from like whatever 3% down to 0. So you know, this is the first time, you know, we've obviously seen rates go up. It hurts crypto, but it hurts everything, obviously, right? And now, you know, we're 1.3, $1.4 trillion market cap, industry. You know, this bull market. I mean, last bull market we hit what 3.6, 3.7 trillion. There's a good chance we hit anywhere between $5 to $7 trillion this time around, and you know, catching up to gold, which is the big narrative that the Bitcoiners are pushing, which is good. Actually, I think that's a decent. I mean, regardless or not, I do. That's one decent one. Like, it's sort of like playing with market cap, right? It's a market cap game. Like, does market cap matter? Yes, to the dum-dums, but no as well, right? Where like, you know, crypto's bigger than gold now at $10 trillion. Fuck yeah, gold sucks, right? And then eventually, you know, Bitcoin's gonna be worth more than gold. When's the flippening? You know, whatever. You know, these narratives are useful because it pumps our bags because you know we'll arbitrage it and
What's
take
that old
profits.
quote? Show me the chart and I'll tell you the news.
Yeah, right. Right. But yeah, like the thing is it's going to be pretty. I think real estate bottoms out basically Q1 of 2025. Yeah, we're gonna. I mean, right now, like, this is one thing the Fed, because I literally do full reactions on Fed on the Fed thing. Like, that's one of my strongest things. Like, I'm a Fed watcher. I'm always watching Jerome Powell stuff, but he has been trying to crush the real estate market. He has said it. Like, he's like, for some reason, we've been increasing interest rates, and you know, real estate services, which is basically just everything under real estate, is not crashing.
Yeah.
And it's they're pissed off about it. Basically,
is it going to stay elevated? You know, I think I think these you're here. This is what we got now. This is reality. Food prices and housing.
Access. Can you pull up that chart, the periodic one, where you have those triangulated long seasons and short seasons and bulls and bears? Do you know the one? I forget the name of the chart. The 100-year-old one.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is.
Cycle.
And ID has something with, as you guys pull up the chart with the ID saying with concerns.
This is
inflation.
quite a cool chart. And what I actually wanted to do a video on it with Access, but we just never got around to it. But I'll wait for it to come up on screen and I'll make some comments. Okay. It's like it's probably better than the Wall Street cheat sheet, you know. In fact, it's way better because it's actually quite accurate with a lot of the information.
Should be good. Oh, sorry, wrong chart. Don't look at that one. 1 second.
All the alpha.
Screenshot.
I saw it.
Sorry, it predicted the future.
Yeah. So this one's pretty cool. I mean, I actually started to go back into like Google, and I was actually researching what was actually taking place during these years, like across the world. And that's like a video that I wanted to do, because there's a lot of really interesting things like wars and governments being toppled and in certain extreme scenarios. And then you can start to see what's happening in the opposite side, right? When things are bullish in the news, in the world. Yeah. And, you know, it's really, when you actually don't just look at this, but take those dates.
Yeah, let's just look at this for a sec. Let's talk about it. We're here now. Really let's do this over it. Here, 1927 was a couple of years before the Great Depression, right? 1945. What happened then?
End of World War II.
1965 is a couple years before we get off the gold standard. 1981, wasn't there a big crash in 81?
Yeah, the flash crash.
And then 1999 .com bubble, and then 2019 just months before COVID crash. So next one is 2035. I mean, this guy created this in the 1800s, guys, but it predicted all these major cycles because everything has an underlying mathematical matrix that drives all of nature and human psychology. And I know we get a lot of times where we get caught in on, and caught up in all the day-to-day with a specific asset and a chart and this and that. But my actual true passion and interest is in this underlying mathematical matrix that guides life on Earth and in the universe as a whole. And then this guy here just happened to find some sort of connection between these different frequencies of time, and they tend to line up with big major events. And so I think like to bring your attention right to what's important immediately is this bottom bar here shows you that 2023 is a year of hard times, low prices, and a good time to buy stocks, crypto assets, goods, services, corner lots, yada, yada, and wait for the boom. Well, what are the boom years? That's this middle line here. Years of good times, high prices, and time to sell assets and values of all kinds. Well, when is that coming? 2026.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then that's kind of why I've been talking about the interest rates, why it's so different, because we actually could get an extended. I mean, last cycle we had the longest kind of altcoin run we've ever had. It was not that just Bitcoin was just so bullish and it pumped so crazily, but just alts ran. I mean, alts just ran for a really long time. I mean, you could basically count it as sort of like you can kind of like February of 20. Like basically February of 2020 to like February of 2022, there was tons of money being made in altcoins up until like, I mean, literally like our guys were still making money in March of 2022. And then after March, party was over. It was done. That's it, you know, as soon as April crossed around and stuff. So it's possible. And then that's the whole thing where I'm just like, I mean, if the Fed is going to have to start printing money and stuff fairly soon and stuff, and especially into 2024, and then we have rates back down to 3%, it's only going down and more money's being printed because somebody was talking in the chat about deflation. That's not happening. Like what deflation where? Like we have 10,000 baby boomers, and then on top of that, right? So we have 10,000 baby boomers that naturally are retiring every single year, right? Then on top of that, because of all the stuff that ended up happening with like COVID, we actually have more people retiring. We had more people retire sooner than normal, just because like they were at home and they're like, screw it, I'm just leaving the workplace. So, you know, and then that's not even counting all of Europe being like so retarded on demography that like they didn't even have children. Like literally, the average person in Europe had like one child, if that. I mean, they basically had a one-child policy without knowing it and stuff like that. I mean, the United States is not even doing that much better. I think we're like a 1.9 replacement rate right now. So like, the millennial generation is like 5% bigger than the boomer generation. So we literally are just replacing the boomers. The rest of Europe is going to contract like 50% in population. I mean, yeah, and then don't even talk to me about China and the rest of them, because they're giga-fucked.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, I mean, to your point about deflate, like look, this is the money supply that was printed. I mean, just from a supply and demand perspective, I mean, this isn't going back down. Like, this is why you're seeing rises in prices of everything, because there's so many more excess dollars in the system. You can't undo that, right? So this is trying to reflect to you that, I mean, prices are going to flatline, and that's the new normal. The real new normal was inflation.
You know, I've seen a lot of dynamic change as well in the West. I've always seen the West as being a place that is deteriorating and going down because of the power structures that are in place. And that East has always had to conform and toe the line. But it's like now the East is breaking away and they're doing the opposite of what the legacy is basically doing over in the West. Example, like there's a few banks over here now where you can literally just go buy Bitcoin, Ethereum inside of the bank applications. And over in the West, they're blocking accounts that are dealing with exchanges where you can buy Bitcoin and Ethereum. So it's like, what the fuck is going on here? Definitely a big net migration is how I see it is going to take place, because the capital controls, the migration mixing pots that are happening, you know, there's always conquer through division. There's lots of racial wars, financial wars, poverty, now physical wars, potentially like quite high likely going to happen. unless they stem that, neutralize it, which creates the run, because obviously if this inflation is going into a hyperinflation scenario, that's going to implode the entire system at some stage. Whether they can run it, again for another, what's it going to be, another 3 years, right? Kick the can for another 3 years into that little mini, the little mini rally there, not the main one, then that means there's going to be a tremendous amount of energy coming into crypto space, 100%. But again, like, people are predicting that this is going to be is going to blow up in 2026. Yeah, that's going to be the end of the cycle. And a lot of people say, well, it's probably going to be 6 months before that. It's going to be quick. It's probably not going to be a multi-year, like 3-year insane market. But also,
Right.
if the US dollar is going to collapse and lose its hegemony and dominance in the space, there will be a war that obviously takes place, because that's not a power that they want to give up on. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of these, BRICS nations, China, are all over Asia. It's insane. Like, they're all inside of the politics. They're all inside of the infrastructures. There's so many deals that have been done that basically China pretty much runs the underbelly of the system. Even though the countries still have their sovereignty perception. There are some countries that are better than others, but ultimately the difference in some of the territories over here, and I think probably Texas is probably the same. People do physically go into the street by the hundreds of millions and get change to happen. Whereas in the West, they don't seem to, put the TV remote down and go into the street in massive populace. So people over in the East do create change when they see the government are starting to overstretch and take the piss. And that's quite, enlightening to see, because it's like, well, that's what people should do, right? It's what, if there are bad things happening to the populace, people should rise. But in the West, they just take it and take it and take it. So that's definitely one of the reasons that I do highlight people to also look into potential second options. And again, that's why what's it, digital roadmap, or the event that we went to was good to at least open people's eyes. However, I find it funny that it was based over in Malaysia, and they did not even comment on anything about Asia. Everything was about, Puerto Rico. It's about Georgia and all these locations that actually is kind of still inside of that sort of territory. So yeah, I'm hoping that more hexagons actually look into Asia. There's a lot of benefits there, and to have things set up should things go, seriously bad over in the West. Yeah, that's just something I would say. Try to get set up, because it might be a 3-year thing before things really start to pop and go bad. And COVID for me was a good indicator that travel, it can be shut down just like that. And to have residencies in place gives you the benefit where for me, a British national was not allowed to leave the country. But because you have a residency somewhere else, or you have business ties into another territory, you're one of the few that is allowed to get out. And then one of the biggest issues, we don't need to preach this, but one of the biggest issues is anyone that is actually has precious metals or cash in the bank, moving those sort of sources of wealth quickly, remotely, is next to impossible, especially if you don't have things set up in other countries. And then there's a lot of questions. But if it's all held in digital form inside of cryptocurrencies, it's like, hop on a plane and you're out same day, and your wealth comes with you. So it's like, I think a lot of the world is clocking onto that. And I think that is going to be even more of a factor for flight to safety. A lot of the legacy wealth is going to just be sucked in to this ecosystem for sure.
one of the, I mean, one of the best voices that I've heard that like is countering this narrative of the dollar is going to collapse is this brainiac on Substack and Medium called Concoda. And like the evidence that I see for why it could be the case that the dollar is actually stronger than it's ever been is like this type of a flow chart where this giga-brained person has mapped out exactly how the Fed works and how all the plumbing in the global financial system works. And so I haven't really had a chance to cover it on my channel, and it's way too deep really to even put onto YouTube. But if people are wanting to learn more about how there's this other narrative that actually the dollar, because of overnight lending markets and the repo ductwork that's been put into place ever since the great whatever, like ever since the Wu flu, that's what's been kind of counter to this narrative that BRICS is taking over and the dollar's doomed.
No, dude. We've had a world like one day we'll have a one world currency. We've had it already for a long time now. It's the dollar, pretty much. That's not going away. Obviously with overnight repo markets, that's just basically interbank lending overnight and stuff because they have to be at least worth $1 on the books. They borrow money from each other to actually be solvent, and then after that, they literally can be unsolvent for the rest of the week. That's basically how it works. At least on the U.S. side, it could be different internationally, but at least on the U.S. side, like as long as your bank is worth at least $1, you're totally okay, basically. And basically, the banks stopped lending to each other, and then they forced J.P. Morgan and some of these banks to take that overnight repo money, so the rest of the smaller banks wouldn't like show their hands over like who was actually underwater. And then, one thing recently is like the Federal Reserve has like, because everyone's starting to watch their balance sheet like a hawk now. Basically, one thing the Federal Reserve has done is they've literally printed $159 billion to the FDIC, and the FDIC is now giving money to the banks and stuff. So there's actually some bank problems going on, and they're actually bailing out banks right now. But it's not being said right now. But yeah, we've just had 15% of $1 trillion just printed out of thin air to bail out basically some of these banks, especially in Silicon Valley and stuff like that. Because we're still dealing with some of the problems that ended up having through Silicon Valley Bank and all those other banks out there and stuff like that. So we're probably going to have some more collapses if they continue on. If they hold off on decreasing interest rates up until like Q3 of 2024, we can finally get some commercial real estate banks finally start going down, which is what the Feds really want, because that's the last. Basically a lot of people are just they're in their houses, so they're going to stay there because they can afford the payment. So they're not selling their homes. I mean, people are selling homes right now are just boomers basically trying to move. Like 3,000 out of every 10,000 boomers, when they retire, they're moving to a different state and stuff. So this is why like Nevada, Florida, Texas have been doing really strong and stuff. Like, most people, obviously if you got a job, you'll move, but the average person isn't moving from their state. It's people with money or retirees. We're weirdos. Like us crypto people, like we're weird. Like we're weirdos that we're able to move to Puerto Rico. We're able to go to Asia. Like we're not normal by any case. Just think about like how crazy it is. Like, let me move to a different state completely away from my family and all these connections and school, high school friends, or whatever the hell it is, right? That doesn't take a very interesting person. And even if you don't have a lot of money, it takes a really interesting person to be like, fuck it, I'll move to a different, I'll roll the dice and move to New York to be in below the poverty line because I'm willing to take a shot, versus like, I'll just stay here where I can be above the poverty line and maybe I can make something happen. Possibly, and that's like what's going on right now. It's crypto people with big, it's people with making money or influencers that are moving, and it seems like everyone's moving, and but the big money people are moving, right? But it's not like there's a lot of people, like people stuck in California that can't move because they don't have what they're going to move to. They're just stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Yeah,
it's wealth on paper, isn't it? A lot of the guys that are new multimillionaire sort of individuals, it's just like a transition, isn't it? I'm always a big believer of like yin yang and how things flow in the universe, right? So that's why I do feel that the US dollar will come down at some point, and there will be a transition into another place. It's just natural flow, right? The same with the bull market and the bear market. It's there's big power struggles on a much higher level, and we're not privy to a lot of the truth of exactly what is taking place with these wars and with these politicians, or whether they're actually all involved together on a much larger agenda, which we won't know. I mean, I've thought about it a lot of times. Maybe they literally are all doing this together, because there's a lot of like crazy people, mentally wise, that do believe again in depopulation agendas, right? That's why a lot of these things come out. These viruses and these controls of humanity, and things always seem to get harder and harder for the average. So in the flip side, there will always be those that are fortunate to break out of the system and have some element of economic wealth. And I think we're transitioning with those people to try to set up other options, like Roger Ver setting up other businesses, doing these sort of things. We got a lot of these hexagons that are going out, trying to educate and trying to set up different locations. And what's amazing is obviously when you go into these sort of communities, you're surrounded by more people who are more on the same wavelength as you, as opposed to being stuck in the territories of where you were raised with basically the ignorant. So as individuals that come together into a community that have common interests and beliefs of how the systems of the world are changing, you can also be the change of the future that comes, based upon how you can help or how you can invest, as opposed to just saying, I've made a few million, okay, I'm going to retire, I don't need to do shit anymore for the rest of my life, sort of thing. It's like, that's the wrong approach, because you've been given an opportunity, you've been given the fortunate aspect of it. And like I was talking about earlier, it's the yin yang, and it's the karma aspects, where to do better in life, in the world, you should also give back whatever your talent is, right? Whatever you can do, as long as you know what you're doing morally is correct, right? You're not scamming, you're not taking it from the wrong people, but you're trying to help and build, and there's profits that come with that. So yeah, that's basically what I want to say on that. It's I do think we are getting there, whether it's another 10 years, 20 years before like things change drastically. But yeah, there's communities, there's crypto hubs all over the place. I mean, I will go and attend more in Asia, in little weird islands here, and I'll just try to network and incorporate in. But I know they're the worst types to go to, because they've already been conditioned into the coins and things that they like, and they're trying to sell it to other people, as opposed to it being into a more just a wealth network event. So that's something I'll
come to Vegas, you guys.
I will want to do it.
I'm literally
Vegas?
building it, man. I'm at Vegas, man.
Yeah.
I'm building the whole network, man. I've got the red pill and the crypto side all coming down to Vegas, man. Like we have like 2 studios here. We're building a third one that should be open by the middle of next year. And literally I could host about like 6 or 7 shows at the same time, streaming at the same time. And so, yeah, like we're building out a huge network here in Vegas, but that's because I thought like that's a big hub and stuff. And that's what I've been working with Rolo, Tomasi, Fresh and Fit, and all these guys to kind of build this out. And, hey, maybe we can onboard, maybe the guys from the Real World and, Top G and the rest of these guys as well over time into this place. And, it's slowly, but, if I kind of believe, if you build it, they'll come, so, hey, you guys come to Vegas, man. I'm telling you, man, there's a lot of action going down here, because this is going to be one of the bigger spots. I mean, I'm literally putting the seeds right now to make this one of the biggest streaming cities on the planet, because Miami is one of the biggest streaming cities right now. Every other city right now is dying outside of maybe like Dallas or Austin, basically, right? I mean, like the big brain drains are going to be Vegas, Texas, and Florida, and places like New York and California are just getting drained out basically into other places. So Jersey too and stuff like that. So it's just kind of figuring out where you want to be at, or go to states, or go to outside the state side, which is like Puerto Rico, and then Portugal. I mean, Portugal's brain draining the rest of Europe as well. I mean, there's all these range. I know so many people from the UK that live in Dubai now. And this is what's happening: is there's these hubs. You're in Portugal, you're in Dubai, you're in Puerto Rico, you're in Vegas, or you're in Miami. Like there's really only so many hubs where you can go to, and then there's people like that might be able to build up like Panama or Mexico City or Guadalajara or something like that, but it's gonna be a little bit tougher to sell and stuff like that. But but time is now. It used to be Hong Kong back in the day, but not anymore. CCP came in there, and it's not so free anymore. So yeah. But I'll let you guys go. You guys, thank you so much for inviting me, Maddie.
Hey, thanks for being on. I really appreciate everything you're doing. I tune in to all you guys when you stream.
Definitely, man. It's nice to talk to you. Axis is the same thing for
sir.
Silver, man. Yeah, man. Later.
Keep kicking ass, Miguel. We'll see you soon.
Okay, man.
See you soon.
Peace out.
Yeah, that's pretty much closing thoughts, I think, for me then, that one.
Awesome.
We could go forever.
We could. But we'll all be around, and yeah, I really appreciate everybody tuning in. I guess I'll drop this bombshell. I guess it's not really that big of news, but we're gonna do another HEX conference. It's been the same dates every year, January 6th through 9th. So we're about 2 months away from that. I'm starting to put the groundwork into all that. So that'll be something to look forward to on this channel. So hit the like and subscribe button. The other thing that Axis and I have been streaming about recently is Com token, which is a reward for people who are staking long-term in HEX. And so I really appreciate everybody who's using my referral link. I get 1% and it doesn't cost you anything. The website is hexcommunity.com for you to claim that. And other than that, do you guys want to go ahead and say where people can find you and all that?
Yeah, guys, everyone in the chat, thank you for being so fired tonight. I think we got up to close to like 500-ish viewers, so that's pretty solid for another typical Thursday night with Maddie. You guys are the reason why we're all here. We're all trying to learn and improve our positions in the world, and we'll do it together. And if you want to learn more about my hot takes on the markets, you can see my stuff on twitter.com or x.com/axisalive, or visit my website at axisalive.com and check out the services page. There's some free content on there as well. I got like a public video archive where you can go back and find any stream that I've ever been on. And then on Monday nights, I do private streams for my community members. And there is a TA course coming sometime in the future. So keep your eyes peeled for that. Appreciate you, Maddie. Appreciate you,
Awesome.
Silver.
Thanks for being on.
Cheers, guys. Thank you.
Silver, thanks for coming on. Appreciate you guys. Until next time, stake wisely, my friends, and peace out.